Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight, the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. And I am Alexis, joined by Alexis. Right, Alexis S to Alexis M. I know. Didn't care for that intro. We'll never do it again. So just putting that out there. Yeah. This is going to be a bit of a catch-up episode. I think every time we get Alexis on here, we need to catch up on some things, because there's always so much happening. I mean, just in our lives in general, but then of course the world, like it is just coming a mile a minute, and so I think we need these catch-up episodes to just kind of like take a breath and, you know, situate ourselves and process about what's happening. So, there are, I think, at least 2 movies that Alexis saw that she may want to have some thoughts to share about on this episode. And then, of course, other things that are happening. We're going to mainly be talking about the industry this episode. Obviously, the fires that are happening right now are a big part of, you know, I mean, if the town where most of the things are made is kind of burning to the ground, that tends to affect the world that we talk about and other things, of course. So that's going to be today's show on Red Spotlight number 498. This will be probably the last episode we record of this show until President Trump once again assumes the throne for yet another maybe 4 years. I mean, crazy things have been happening since his introduction to the world stage, for all sorts of reasons. So, I mean, probably he'll be president for 4 years. I don't know what's going to happen after that. I don't know if, you know, he is going to be 80 pretty soon. We know he ain't in the best of health. We also know he doesn't like to be legal in his activities, so you never know what the hell's going to happen. You know, my dad said the other day, it's like, oh my God, we're going to have a criminal in the White House. He was already a criminal the first time around.
Yeah.
I mean, it just wasn't
just
official.
Because
no one, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he was already, like, that shit's already happened. So, it's just like, but isn't it just like the world is just, I don't know. Serendipitous is not the right way to put this, but it is, maybe eerie is the better way of saying it. How the world is literally just going back to how it felt like in time for his inauguration, because, like, God, it has just, look, I'm not one of these people that likes to harp on all of the negativity, because I've really have come to rely on kind of blocking a lot of that out just to survive. You know, my mental state, you got to keep in check, you know, our mental state, and not, you know, doom scroll all the time. But I don't know. Every January seems to be dark for one reason or the other. This January, though, it's been brutal. I'm not going to mince words. This has been brutal. And Trump isn't even sworn in yet.
I know.
It's been bad.
It hasn't even been 20 days.
No. I mean, we had a great New Year's Eve. You know, we all got drunk. We woke up hungover, and the first thing I see on TV, oh, there was a terrorist attack. People died on New Year's Eve. What a way to ring in the year. And then, I mean, things were going okay for the most part. You know, the Golden Globes, which we should talk about that in a couple of minutes, had a good showing. You know, actually was the reverse of last year for a lot of reasons. And then award season was canceled, basically because of, and many other things, but not like 2 days after the awards, like probably the single worst, like, wildfires of our whole lives, and then some, that anyone has ever seen. The images that have come out of the disaster and the tragedy that has happened in Los Angeles it's crazy. I mean, it's like out of a movie. It's completely out of a movie. And, you know, it's like, it is such a tragic thing, and the ramifications of the horror that has happened are going to be felt, like, for years and years and years. There are like, I mean, most importantly, of course, the people who lost their entire livelihood. I mean, not their livelihoods, perhaps, but for sure their homes. That is a really unique kind of like personal like devastation. Yeah. And that's not even getting into perhaps the historical places that were in danger. I mean, I think right now it's okay, but at one point there was a fire in the Universal area, and that threatened that's not a thumbs up. Don't misconstrue that. Damn phone thinks it's. I don't know. I need to look into that because it's really getting on my nerves. Because I don't mean to do that. But at one point, the Hollywood Bowl, the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Boulevard, all those places were in danger. Who knows if they're out of the woods? Yeah, I mean, I'm still hearing it's 0% contained. Yeah, which is it's been.
But
weeks.
I haven't looked into like where it's going, but I don't know. Like, I think it's starting to go like backwards because I think the wind's turned. But I honestly haven't seen like where it is now because it's just like how you said, it's been weeks and it's still going.
And it wasn't just one, it's like all of these fires that happened at different parts of town at the exact same time and kept going all the way throughout. I mean, it's honestly felt like a plague. I mean, not to be like,
and so fast.
Yes.
So fast.
It like a perfect storm, honestly, of what happened. And that's not even getting into perhaps some of the historical places that have been completely destroyed that we won't see again. At one point, there were like, again, this is far less important, but it's still important. It is history. There was even other places that were in danger, like the Walt Disney Archives. One of the warehouses, I think, was almost, you never. At this point, we have no idea, but we do know that there have been billions of dollars of, in devastation. But I do want to say though, I have been especially enraged. And look, I was about to say I was especially enraged at conservatives and Republicans. I mean, I always am. But I think, many, many years ago when we did Barely a News Crew, or maybe it was the early Red Spotlight days, I said that conservatism, the ideology of conservatism was like a mental disease or a mental disorder. I feel rather vindicated by my thinking that, especially with how far gone we have gone. With that, because conservative and Republicans, because they're owned by the gun lobby, anytime kids in elementary schools are shot up by these nut jobs, they're always thoughts and prayers. Why are you making it political? We can't talk about gun reform right now at a time like this. There's the devastation of the parents. We have to think about that. Where was that thinking when hundreds of people lost their homes, are continuing to lose their homes, and the entirety of Los Angeles has been brought down to its knees? Where was that consideration or thought for people at this very precious and tragic time? But no, the veil has been completely lifted, and many of these people were jumping immediately to like fire the mayor, fire the governor. This is why California is a failed state. This is why Democrats suck and Republicans and Republican states are so much better. Like, they immediately made it political. Trump even tweeted something like a graphic saying that Trump was right, that had flames behind it. He even had like hats, MAGA hats made saying Trump was right about everything. And then you even had lawmakers go on TV and say, well, why are we going to give California all of this bailout money? We should put some strings attached to it because obviously they failed at keeping the state safe. Monsters. This is the most inhumane shit we've seen, and we've seen a lot of inhumane shit happen, especially these last 10 years. Hell, the last 100 years, the whole history of the planet for sure. But I mean, as far as like, we like to think ourselves as part of an advanced civilization. This is on a whole other level of just like the inhumanity happening and coming from that side. These are the people who are about to take power. And these are the people who are about to give us 4 years of nonstop, crazy, chaotic shit. And we're all going to be swept up in it.
I'm already tired.
You're right. It's already insane.
I just remember, like, the doom scrolling was a big part of it,
Yeah.
and just like, and I'm not saying that like nothing happened during Biden, but maybe some people didn't, but I did feel more like like
Joe Biden, and everybody can agree to this, was a amazingly ineffective president. The fact that Trump is in the White House, I lay at the feet of the failure of his presidency, and not to let the rest of his party off the hook for that too. But despite the wonderful abundance of incompetence with his administration, there was enough competency going around to where things are like, okay, well, this sucks, this is awful, these people are being killed, but at the very least, there isn't 1,000% chaos happening every single day, every single waking moment of our lives, how it was from 2017 all the way to 2020. That was what was different. Is that, okay, I can acknowledge that the person at the White House is very much not really enacting change, and people's lives are not really all that better off, and he is getting in his own way. I can acknowledge that, and we would have preferred someone far better. We said that 4 or 5 years ago when he was running. This was not the person we wanted, and we said very strongly what would happen if that were the case. Despite the fact, though, it never came close to the fact that, I mean, look, I don't want to turn this into, like, we all know what Trump has done. We all know the things he's been accused of, and look, last year around this time, he was at a New York court because, and the top story of the day, Stormy Daniels testified saying that he liked to be spanked with a newspaper. I mean, look, this is the level that we've been reduced to. So this is what we're okay. Trump gets a second term. It's like a second season of his TV show. He's been renewed. It's a reboot, especially. And it's going to be insufferable. I think, to me, though, I'm going to wait and see. Like, I think what obviously is the cause for what happened here is climate change. We're seeing natural disasters at a rate that we've never seen before. And we all know whose fault that is. Let's not belabor that point. But clearly, the idea that Republicans are taking advantage of people's suffering and devastation for a political moment just highlights the complete hypocrisy. Again, these are the people who say, let's take movies out of politics. Why are Hollywood moguls deciding what gets placed in front of our children's eyes? You people make everything political. You people make everything insufferable. We can't just enjoy things. We can't just live things. Even when you win, you want to shove it in everybody's faces. But when you lose, forget about the complete tears that you cry left. I mean, you cried about this person that he lost, and so you made this story up that, oh, it was stolen, we gotta get it back. And people don't want to be thinking about politics and the news all the time, because ultimately, deep down, we know it is a farce. It is a farce. As long as both political parties are captured by corporations and big money interests, why the hell is there any point in getting involved into it, And not that anyone really seriously would condone murder or actually going out there and killing people, obviously. But there is a reason why, that Luigi person has been a lightning rod. Because the person who was assassinated, and I'm sorry that he was killed, I feel for the family, and I think no one deserves to be executed like that. That's awful. But he himself was an individual who was probably the sole reason why many people were killed. We live in a country where insurance companies get to play God. They decide who lives and who dies. If they don't wish to pay for your life-saving surgery, they will find some loophole in your plan to kill you. And that is murder. But we don't consider it murder because it is civil. Because it is legal. Because that is the system, how it's set up. And the thing is, my concern so much isn't Donald Trump. My concern is these freaking fascist billionaires who have now taken complete control. I am most afraid of Elon Musk. I am most afraid of Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. Well, who is the other person that I'm forgetting? All of them are just... Ugh.
Yeah.
Even freaking the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, openly gay, by the way, although I don't know what that does for him now. He just donated to Trump's inauguration.
Of course. Like, they're all just, it's a cult. It's like a,
Yeah.
like, it's fucking weird.
So it's like, look, I don't want to make this whole thing about politics, but let's just be real here. If anyone made this a political, I mean, obviously there should be a review about the things that went wrong, but I live in California, and I am surrounded by people all the time that talk shit about California. And it is a popular thing to talk shit about California. And by the way, there are plenty of things to be dissatisfied with how things are going. Gavin Newsom has not lifted a finger about the homeless problem. And in fact, he may have made things worse. And this is why the Democratic Party needs a revolt, not just in California, but throughout the whole country. You know, we were let down by these people again and again and again. And there needs to be a political revolution to usher these people out and get some people with actual brains in their heads that'll actually win and have common sense. You know, a study came out this week that Gaza was this pretty big reason why a lot of young people stayed home and that cost Kamala Harris the election. And let me tell you this, I'm angry at them because I don't understand. Look, there's a genocide happening. There's a war happening. I understand the motivations, but from a pragmatic point of view, allowing Trump to become the president again is not going to make that situation better. It's going to make the situation worse and all of our lives worse. So allowing that to happen is kind of unforgivable in my point of view. And I think that these people are really wrong to make that choice. But despite the fact the Democrats made no effort to court those people and openly spat in their face when it was very easy to fix that situation. So they chose to make it worse, and it cost them dearly in the election. So that gross incompetence needs to be removed. That being said, though, despite the fact that the Democrats are captured by corporate interests, it's not even a close race. When you look at red states, no one ever talks shit about them. Why? They should be. They're last in everything. It's like everyone's like, yeah, but the cost of eggs is cheaper. Yeah, but the cost of living is cheaper in Arizona. Yeah, I'm picking in Arizona. Oh, sure. Wonderful for you. Do you not care that education is probably dead last out of 50 states? Do you not care that the state of healthcare is also dead last of 50 states? Yes, there are higher taxes in California, but there's also a higher standard of living. There's a higher quality of life. Life expectancy is higher in blue states versus red states. I wonder why that is. Because when you have a completely red state of mind, you completely give the special interest billionaires everything they want. You have no regulation, and people get a bunch of awful shit in their body. For a start, the economy is destroyed all of the time, and people are living in poverty. And you know what? I think a lot of people would kill for that, for what's going to happen these next 4 years. Because, you know, and we haven't talked really about the election because it's been so obviously crushing and depressing. But it's like, you know, there's been this attitude lately, you know, like, you know, well, you know, maybe things just need to be broken.
Yeah.
Maybe people just need to feel the pain, right? So if you want mass deportation, let it happen. If you want to crack down on abortions and kill people, fine. Let's see how it works out for you. Is the attitude that people feel that way. Obviously, it's awful that it's come to this. Obviously, there are many, many people who tried to, you know, put the warnings out there, but people were not in the mood to hear that. But more importantly, one political party who could have saved us blowed every opportunity imaginable. And the leaders who were at the head of that party should never forget the shame of losing to that person 2 times after a global pandemic in which his actions spread it. His actions failed to contain it, his actions contributed to the deaths of over 400,000 people. And yet here we are again. So let's just cross our fingers and make sure we don't have another pandemic on our hands.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, obviously, like, we hope for the best, but for those people that voted him in, I hope you get everything that you wanted. And we'll see what happens.
It's one of those things. It's like, I hope you get everything that you deserve. I hope you're happy. But yeah, this is of course the way that this year would start.
It's crazy because it's so, like, at least with the fires, like, I have family that lives up there, like, you know, like, the day that it got, like, really bad, like, it was constant, like,
yeah,
hey, are you okay? What's going on? What are you gonna do? Hey, I'm packing. Don't forget this. Don't forget, like, you know, and just, you know, you have a home here, like, you know, like, that's crazy. Like, it just hits so close to home that it's, like...
No, there have been like, plenty of people who live in Los Angeles, obviously, and, you know, there are a lot of loved ones, you know, across the state and across the country. I was in contact with Nettie because she was there too, and she got evacuation orders a couple of times. She's fine. She didn't have to leave. I think her area is okay. She lives like right next to Universal Studios.
Oh wow,
which is pretty. That's a good perk, by the way. We definitely abused that. Went to go see Lion King last July, which was nice. But yeah, it's freaking terrifying and sad and scary. And like these were 100-mile-an-hour winds, and you know, it's just like I hope this comes to an end soon. But it's just one of these things that's just so disheartening to see, and it's also very disheartening when you consider other kinds of ramifications. This week, the world lost David Lynch, a beloved filmmaker, without a doubt one of the faces of cinema as we know it today. I don't necessarily know the name of his condition, but his health had been in decline in recent years. His health was so sensitive that he really couldn't leave his home anymore because of that situation. But he needed to because his home was endangered by the fires. And the minute he was moved, he took a turn for the worse, and he died like 2 weeks later. We also saw a video of Dick Van Dyke being evacuated from his home. 99-year-old Dick Van Dyke. And by the way, every time I see a clip of him, and I'm like, how the hell do you still talk this good? You're 99 years old.
He's literally hipping with it. Like, he's gonna outlive everybody.
All of us.
He's insane.
So there's that. We think about like how it's affected the industry, but you know, what we do not talk about enough, not even by any stretch of the imagination closely or nearly enough, are the normal, and we try our best. You know, when we talked about Moana a few weeks back, Moana 2 specifically, and the gross unethical practices of Disney, we really try to shed a light whenever we can on the real people that work behind these movies. You know, because they're not that dissimilar from us or those of you who listen and watch the show, because ultimately, if you talk about movies and if you cover the entertainment industry, you've often envisioned yourself and liking yourself with somebody or like the people who would go out there, leave it all behind to try to make it big in LA and everything, right? Or not even big, but just to have a career of sorts. And this disaster is just yet another one of these like completely apocalyptic, intrusive events that has made any kind of livelihood, much less a career, next to impossible if you're a normal person in LA, if you work in entertainment. You know, this decade alone, we went from COVID to the strikes to this. How many times has Hollywood been brought down because of these kind of events? And it's getting close, and literally now, many normal people's homes, as well as maybe even people who are like industry veterans who are even Oscar voters themselves, to celebrities lost their homes. And so at this point, if you have been out of work for like half of this decade due to COVID or the strikes, now you've lost your home because of this wildfire, get the hell out of there and just leave. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are going to have to be brought to that conclusion because there is no future in an industry. And by the way, one of these events was completely unavoidable. The strikes, which were led by multinational corporations who have captured Hollywood, but more importantly, the greedy, money-grubbing CEOs that will not stop at crushing people left and right. And this is not just a thing that is specific or unique to Hollywood. It is happening literally everywhere in this country, which is why it was pretty interesting how there was this person who came on MSNBC a few days ago, of all places, and he was telling them, look, there has been a lot of turmoil and chaos these last couple of years, and these mini revolutions, like I think he was pointing out, Black Lives Matter. He was pointing out, the Me Too movement, Occupy Wall Street, and he was also bringing in, of course, the Luigi person who killed the United CEO place, and he was like, look, these mini revolutions are piling up. Mm-hmm. And they're a direct result of nothing being done about income inequality.
Of just people being tired. Like people
being tired of the way things are.
Yeah.
But specifically because they're literally, the standard of living is on the verge of collapse. It goes beyond now just the fact that middle, normal class people do not make as much in comparison to the venture capitalists whose profits are going this way. And aside from just being stagnant, wages are now just continuing to go down. If we continue to go down this path, the Luigi thing should be a cautionary tale that we are verging very soon to some kind of violence breaking out, because people are not going to accept things like this for very much longer. People are like ready to explode on that visceral level, because everywhere, how when you go to Disneyland, and for those of you who can afford to go to Disneyland, but you look around you and everywhere you're being nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime. That's become normal life for people who don't have money, for everybody. Now that's how the way that it is. Inflation has been a really crippling issue these last couple of years. And while people are very much not in the mood to educate themselves on what caused it, I have a lot of anger about that situation, because it was all of these companies who decided to take advantage of a tragic situation. COVID happened, everything shut down. We were saying, Alexis, you and I, the government should have done something to ensure everybody that they would be taken care of beyond just what they did. And because it didn't happen, these companies saw an opportunity the year they came back from COVID. Now we need to jack up our prices everywhere we look. And I'm sorry, everybody got that idea. Well, if they're doing it, so should I. We screwed each other over, and we continue to screw each other over. So when you bring it back to people who work in Hollywood and are true artists, and from animators to visual VFX artists to just people who work in these production crews, to writers, like, why would you continue to put so much of your energy into something that very clearly does not value you? We haven't even touched on the fact that they're trying to replace all of you with AI. Like, it just feels so apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I haven't given you a chance to speak. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm agreeing with everything you say, and it's, things just feel very tense, like it could explode at any moment.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know that it's been like this for a while, but I feel like especially now, like, people are one check away from being homeless. Like, people can't get sick. People can't, like, I don't know. It's the CEO thing, like, all of that stuff, like, it's crazy, and it sucks that it, like, got to that point, but I also, like, understand why it got to that point, and I feel
There were
like
a lot of people. There was a big reason why people were championing. I mean,
exactly.
look, no one,
There's a
no one was
reason
condoning
why.
the act itself, but there's a reason why nobody was. Again, look, I
There's a
think if
reason why
no
both
one mourns the wicked.
sides
Yeah,
were like came together in that moment, and were like,
yeah,
like, that's very telling,
yeah.
and yeah, it's it's crazy, and I don't know. Going back to the mental health stuff, just, I don't know, try to do whatever you can to just make your mind okay, keep calm,
Yeah.
and
And I feel very badly again for the person who got executed, or murdered by Luigi or whatever, right? But like I gotta say, if you're a person of faith, right? If you believe in an afterlife and if you believe in a God, do you not think the very first thing he was asked by said creator was, why did you allow millions of people to die? Does that not occur to you? Funny for, again, the things that we choose to judge others for, that wasn't one of them. Because he had power and he had money. But let's go ahead and continue to judge other people just because they want to exist and live their lives happily and freely. Let's go ahead and continue to oppress them and hate them. It really is sickening to me. The transphobia has gotten so suffocating that it's gone beyond that just now. That now we're regressing fully to full-blown homophobia. And probably within the next year or so, the Supreme Court will overturn gay marriage. So that's what's on the chopping block. If they've got the votes, Trump will destroy Obamacare, which is the same thing as the Affordable Care Act for you idiots out there that don't know the difference. But that would mean we're going to go back to the days of, sure, congratulations, there will be no more individual mandate that forces you to have a healthcare plan. But if you get sick, if you have no plan, and if you have a pre-existing condition, you're shit out of luck, aren't you? So,
we'll see how it goes.
and by the way, we haven't even mentioned the fact that, and who knows if they'll act on this, but they're very much definitely, they've put it out there. We used to think that it was bad enough with Betsy DeVos running the Department of Education, right? That really terrible person. But I think there's the possibility where they can go even further and just, because they've actually said out loud, oh, let's just completely eliminate the Department of Education.
That's insane.
Won't affect California because, or any blue states because, they have their standards and shit. But if you're in a red state, say goodbye to your kids' IEP. Say goodbye to your kids' 504. Because the funding will be completely eliminated. That's one of the very first things. But sure, continue to bitch about how teachers are corrupting kids. Failed state.
That
failed
was like
country.
the one thing I really kind of hit me, like when the election happened and stuff. Like,
yeah.
There's you, but I have a lot of family members who are teachers and educators, and just like, even hearing you sometimes when we talk about it and stuff, like, the way that you guys care so much about your job, and, like, for people to, and sure, like, I know that there's, others that don't, like, respect the job, I guess, is the best way I can put it, but, like, there's so much you guys put up with, but like you stay because you care so much about what you're doing and about the kids and everything. And it just makes me so like angry and sad, and like I can't even imagine how you guys feel with like all that stuff.
You know, like I told you many times, it really did feel like a part of me was awakened when I signed up to do this job. I even said about a year ago that, like, I don't know if we want to call it like a parental like intuition or instinct that just kind of like a switch that flipped on. I'll give you an example. I had one of the close ones that I've had this past semester. He was a fifth grader practicing for the mile. Kind of had an asthma attack, but he took himself out of it. But the whole time I'm like genuinely worried for him.
Yeah.
And look, it's like a little. My job was never in jeopardy. That's not what I was worried about. I know some people would go there, but no, I was just like, oh, this is like when things like this happen, just like you get protective about it. There was even this other kid who has had some issues with bullies, and was talking to him about it, and like, you know, I could not believe how strong he was about it, because he was the one that was being targeted. But you know what? He didn't allow it to affect his mental state. He still kept the positive attitude. He was still pushing forward. And those moments have really made me feel like there is, at the very least, a sliver of a point. Because, you know, to live life today as somebody who is about to turn 3 decades old, it's like everything is like crumbling around us. And I'm going to skirt past that, because if we dwell on it, we're not going to move on, okay? There'll be tissues. But it is the reality, right? And everything you see is just a reminder of how fucked everything is. But then, with what I get to do, and the conversations and interactions that I get to experience, it makes me, I mean, just for a personal sense of gratification, it makes me feel like my life has meaning. It makes me feel like my life has value. And it makes me feel very passionate about the work that I do, in spite of the fact that it is very taxing. In spite of the fact that I don't even know how the hell I get through it. Like this week I had to, like, without any preparation or notice, I had to like make up an hour-long math lesson just like that. Mm-hmm. And I suck at math.
Yeah, and like even to go further into it, like I recently was able to go to my cousin's class. My cousin, she's a special ed teacher. And
oh, God bless her.
Yes.
Which what any special educator can do, I sure as hell cannot. I've had the privilege of being exposed to what it's like to be in a special education classroom. God bless every single last one of those people, because the sacrifice that they take, the toll, the emotional toll that those people take just to do their jobs. I'm sorry, but most of the people in this world, especially this country, which can be very self-centered and selfish and just evil most of the time, would never and could never.
No, absolutely
put up
not.
With a half of what they do.
Yeah. And so, you know, her mom was also a teacher. And so we both, I feel, I mean, obviously her more, but like we both got, you know, kind of exposed to this world. When I was younger, I would go, my aunt was my substitute for a long time, and she was still substituting. Even like when I got older and I had days off from school or something, I don't know why I would go, or like I think our schedules would be different. I would go with her and be at school with her and see her teach, and you know, so we both, obviously, like my cousin got it a lot more growing up, but like we were both like into this world, and that hadn't happened in a long time. And so I recently was able to go see my cousin in her class, which was like completely different, because my aunt, she was like I think between first and I think the oldest she did was maybe 4th grade. But she's not a special ed teacher. And so going into this class and seeing that, like, it's insane. And then we had this moment where it was lunchtime, and the teachers around her would go into her classroom to have their lunch there. And they were talking about some of the students, and the way that, like, they could pinpoint what, like, the kid was having problems at home and at school, and they were trying to, like, get to him, to, like, not go back to, like, the stuff that he was doing to get in trouble. But, like, that day specifically, he did something that, like, he got in trouble for. But, like, the way that they were able to pinpoint, like, what is actually happening, and the way that they, like, explained it and were so well spoken into, like, his feelings and stuff, that's insane. Like, to be so in tune with, like, just, like, how the mind works, and especially for kids when, like, they don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand how people can, like, see these people who are working so hard to, like, take care of kids or take care of your kids and, like, shit on them. It's crazy.
No, you know, it's really, people certainly don't do this for the money. Now, I am very thankful that I live in a state, again, this is why blue states can be great, where... and in an area of this said blue state where if you are a teacher, you're doing just fine. But in most states, in most cases, they're not doing just fine. They're getting paid half of what a teacher is being paid for here. And that's very much a crime. Again, I want to shout out a presidential candidate by the name of Bernie Sanders, who was the only presidential candidate maybe ever to say that he wanted to give teachers a raise so much that at the bare minimum, all around the country, they would be paid $60,000. And isn't it amazing how no other Democrat even cared to follow that up? Doesn't that speak volumes about how terrible they were as candidates, that they couldn't even do that? That I would assume would be a very popular thing to do. Teachers, by the way, were one of the big donors of Sanders' campaign, both elections. And the Sanders campaign was spat in the face by the Democratic Party both times. The second of which had the nomination stolen from him, literally. And in exchange, we got Joe Biden. And we saw where that ended. But, you know, I care so much about the work that I do and the job that I have because, you know, I feel like sometimes, and this is no disrespect or no offense to any of you, friends or family, but I often feel like for whatever reason, I've heard some of the most, like, validating things and some of the most, like, kind things that I've probably ever heard from anyone else than from some of my students. One of them told me, actually two of them told me that, like, and I don't want it to come across as if I'm somebody who, like, slacks, you know, that's not my style. That just, like, lets them do what they want. But they, in two separate occasions, they say that I'm somebody who actually listens to them. And they feel heard. Even this week, he said to me, out of all the teachers, you're the only one that I feel that actually gets me. And that means a lot to hear because it reminds me that maybe I'm doing something right. And not that I'm doing something right that other more, seasoned professionals are doing wrong, but it may just be the fact that I haven't forgotten one moment of what it was like to be a kid. I haven't forgotten one moment of what it was like to be in school. And that really informs a lot of what I do and how I have these interactions. I do want them to feel like I'm in their corner. I do want them to feel like I support them because any good teacher would want that way. But this was a very difficult conversation to have because, he was going through some of the same things that I was going through, It made me feel proud. It was a mix of emotions because, he had the courage to do things that I never did. He actually stood up for himself. I never had the courage to do that. Just would chicken out, would never do that. And then it's complicated because, you want to be supportive, and I tried my way to get the right words out there, but I also can't be seen condoning any kind of you know. So it's a tough balancing act sometimes to do so. But I don't know if there's any kind of positivity that I've experienced over the last year. It's definitely been in my professional career, in large part because I feel myself every day getting better at it and feeling more comfortable with it. And looking back on how I was when I first started, I made so many mistakes.
I remember when you and Kyle told us that you were substitutes. I feel like all of us were like, wait, what?
Like, you people, you depraved, soulless assholes would insert yourselves around children? You people who, by the way, constantly have attacked, the idea that children should be allowed in public spaces with adults? Like, you would go and work with children? Yeah, it was insane, wasn't it? It was insane. I mean, hey, to be fair, that wasn't my first choice. I had other...
Yeah.
Well, I would say I had other desires, but I gotta tell you something. None of it was fulfilling. I started off thinking that I wanted a career in politics. I learned very quickly, hell no. Then I thought I wanted a career in broadcast journalism. And I was good at it. And then also, like with politics, didn't care very much for the people or the business practices or the mentality and the ideology of them. So that was like, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah.
I cannot be in environments where the people around me are just... No. No. But what ultimately was a game changer was that the profession that I'm in, and I've been very, very lucky to have and made friends along the way with people who love what they do and made me feel like I belong and made me feel like I matter there. And my whole life has changed because of it. And I'm very happy that I have a rewarding professional career. Many people can't say the same. Many people will probably say they make much more than I do. Sure. But I love the work that I do. And more importantly, I love the relationships that I've formed because of what I get to do. The one drawback, though, is I can't walk out of the house looking like a slob anymore. Like, I have to, look presentable.
You look at where you live also.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like I have to look halfway presentable because literally, and this is one of the perks.
And the worst part is you don't just work at one school. You work in all of them.
Yeah. So, and you know what's funny though? What I've learned is they get jealous of each other. They literally get jealous of each other because I spent half of my time with the other. So this is what it feels like to be in a triangle. This is really interesting because when I tell the one school's kids that I've been with the other ones, they look at me like, And then even the teachers today, I was like, they asked me where I was. I was subbing over there.
That would happen at my old job because I would have to travel between 3 offices. And I wouldn't be at one for 2 weeks or something. And then they'd be like, oh, you're back?
I got that exact same response from teachers and students. I'm not even going to lie. That's how it is. It makes you feel like you're cheating on a spouse or something because you got to tell them,
for Halloween, because I started off at one office. So everybody knew that was my main office, but it was also because it was the one closest to my house. But for Halloween they do a decorating competition, so I wouldn't be able to participate because if I did help one, the other two would find out, and it's I don't know what to do, but I want to help. I want to be in this.
it's that part of it is funny, but it's it's easily something that has made me feel like this is the thing that I've been looking for my whole life, which is to find something that makes me feel like I matter. All those years being surrounded by people who wanted to have a career in politics, who wanted to be in the news, didn't even come close to what it feels like doing what I do now. Yeah, it is fortuitous for a lot of reasons. And it's made me very comfortable. So I'll say I definitely stand to make a lot more with what I'm doing versus what I could have done. So there's that. But, just, kind of bringing it back into focus of this whole main thing. We here try to remember, to keep in mind the normal people like us that are affected by events like these. And it really makes you worry about what the future of entertainment Hollywood would be. Again, needless to say, the rest of the country and everything else. But in terms of what we cover on the show, it makes one very worried about what it's going to look like when we have a mass exodus of people, in the industry. In a couple of minutes, we'll mention how this has affected awards season and everything. And there are probably actual industry voters whose homes were destroyed who are not even going to contribute a ballot to the nominations, which closed today, and that's going to affect who gets included and what gets excluded. Not the most important things, obviously, in the world at this moment, but still, it just shows you the extent to which these fires are going to shake this town for a long time to come.
A very long time.
A very long time.
And it's kind of crazy also because I think it was last month. I was in LA because, like I said, I have family that lives over there, and specifically a cousin who, I'm really close to, and it was her birthday. And so we were driving around LA, and, I was thinking, and I think I told her, LA is so strange, but, in such a unique way, because, you can be in one part for 1 second and then in a completely different part for the next, and it's not like New York where it's the different spots, but it's more so the people, and because it's been there for so long, just the way that it looks, I don't know, and so to do that a month ago literally to what it is now, it's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. So, before we get off of this serious, it's been a very serious hour of the show. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, which is really related to all of this, is there's a lot of frustration on the part of what are very much small business owners, as well as people, just normal people, as to the fact that, the government can't be bothered to actually help anyone's lives. But they very much absolutely could get up off their asses and pass a ban on TikTok.
We are literally a joke. It's if you don't laugh, you cry.
And I hate to say it because I didn't think it would do this, but I know that my first interaction with TikTok wasn't very positive. It was when one of the very first days on the job that I just spoke about, I had these teenagers literally jump on their desks to do a TikTok right in front of me, and I was just like, what the hell is happening? So that wasn't very positive, obviously. I kind of avoided TikTok for like a while after that because like, oh. But this last year to year and a half, I gotta say, despite the fact that there are some very negative aspects about it, how I could just, it can get you stuck in just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And despite the fact that while the algorithm gives you what you want and only gives you what you want can be a negative thing because people are not exposed to any kind of contrarian point of views, the absolute joy that I have experienced by a lot of the stories and real people who are on that site, I mean, it's definitely gotten me through some tough times. There have been some, look, I'll just be flat out and open with you. There are moments throughout the year where, my mental state isn't all that great. I suffer from, like, crippling anxiety sometimes. And the videos, not all the time, but sometimes makes it tolerable. It gets my mind off of things. And the fact that the government went out of its way to decide that this was such a pressing issue. And I'm sorry, you can say that it's like China security, fuck that noise. It really comes across as if like there are those powers that be that do not want the dissemination of information. How TikTok has been able to really have, it's the only app where any genuine conversation could have happened that also wasn't captured by right-wing nut jobs like Zuckerberg and Musk that own the rest of the other goddamn apps. So then again, if you're so worried about TikTok, can we ban Facebook? Can we ban Twitter? How have you processed this news? Also, I mean,
I don't want to think about it.
I know, I don't want to think about it either. It is coming up apparently on the 19th, but there has been some doubt. I guess the President Biden, God, fuck that guy. Like, he's the one that signed this ban, and now evidently he's like,
I'm not gonna push.
Well, I'm not gonna enforce it. I'm not gonna enforce the ban. I'm gonna leave it to Trump to decide to do things. And you know what? Doesn't that just sum everything up? Why would you? You're basically giving Trump the option of saving TikTok. Why? Joe Biden might be one of the most vengeful presidents I've ever seen. For all of the work, he has been wrong every step of the way. And just because people have pointed out that he's been wrong, he continues to screw the rest of us over. He shouldn't have ran. And he kind of caused this mess that we're in a large part. But why would you give your political opponent a victory like that? Oh, I'm the guy that saved TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm very sad about it. I too use TikTok as an escape. But also, I've learned so much from TikTok, whether it's
Me too.
In like a personal, like kind
I've learned
of
that all Mexican moms are the same.
Yeah. I just think that like they're scared of the community that TikTok has to offer. Yeah. And like that's what it is. Like
it's not very right wing. It's not very right wing, is it?
Well,
I mean, there are spaces that are right wing, sure.
Yeah.
Not that,
but like it
TikTok
also
was this place for like leftist people, but like there was so much different kinds of information.
Yeah, and like I would also sit and like watch their videos also because I mean, how you were saying, like it doesn't really allow for that for a lot of people, but like I would go out and seek what other people are saying because it's important to like to do that. It's not okay to just believe one person and stick to that the whole time. Like that's not effective, and it, what this person is saying might not be true, and it's good to look at different perspectives and make up your own mind on things, but like just like things that are happening like around the world, and even things that have already happened. Like, I wouldn't know a lot of things if it weren't for TikTok. And it's not just like looking at videos. It's like, oh, okay, like this topic, I'm interested in this topic. Then I would go and do, like more research on it or something like that. But again, it's like the sense of like community that this app has to offer, like, and just like the opportunities that people have had to make money, to be financially stable, to, like the fact that they're just like, oh, we don't care. It's done.
Yeah. But I think you noticed this week that some of these people might be very regretful of that vote. I even saw one high-profile Democratic senator who voted for the ban all of a sudden come out and say, giving a speech on the floor of the Senate saying, let's postpone the ban. I wonder why all of a sudden, maybe they didn't realize how many small business owners actually were on that app and
which
depended on that app.
To me. It's
right?
I actually had this conversation with my dad because we know my dad, but like, he was also like, oh, you shouldn't use TikTok, like it's bad, da, 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 da. And China, whatever. I literally was like, oh, that's funny because the CEO is from Singapore, so I don't know what to tell you. And, and then I explained that to him. I'm like, it's a little scary to see or to kind of think about what would happen to the economy because TikTok has like ingrained itself so much into people's lives, and not like in a negative way, mostly positive, at least in the financial aspect.
So wait a minute, Alexis, are you saying that your dad agreed with President Joe Biden to ban TikTok?
No, he didn't agree, but he was just kind of like hearing all this noise about it that he was like, maybe don't use it.
Okay. I mean, sure, but maybe don't use Facebook either?
Yeah, I have Facebook, but I don't really use it.
Yeah, don't.
And Instagram and TikTok, or not TikTok, Twitter got hacked, so I don't even have it anymore. I just decided not to get it back.
TikTok has gone to shit. Sorry.
I know,
Twitter has gone to shit.
But yeah, like TikTok was
X,
the only one that
X
like
now, but fuck that name.
Whatever.
I know.
It was just like the only one that felt genuine, I think.
Yeah.
And
it felt like a place where you can go get some like an escape from everything else.
Yeah,
that
and like
already captured by corporations or right-wing conservatives.
Or even just like to feel validated a lot of the time.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You found people that like either had the same thoughts as you did or were going through the same thing as you did, which you can do it in other sites, but like the way that like social media was when we were younger, like that's what TikTok felt like. And it's just very sad if it does go away, I don't know. It's a little depressing to think about.
A little? I don't know. I just remember like, TikTok at first was this thing where all these videos could be made, right? And at first it came across like this teenager thing where I know when I first heard of TikTok, I was like, why are people talking about that Kesha song? That's literally my first like
I never got into Vine. So in my brain, like TikTok was like Vine. So at first I was just like, no. But then obviously COVID hit and it's like, oh my God, I can't stop.
Maybe, yeah, COVID, because of COVID, I mean, TikTok really blew up afterward, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. Particularly one of the people who has, I think, made quite an impression on here, Megan Cruz, who goes by Stoops, Jay Stoops.
Oh, I love her.
And like, where is it? I know that it's.
I just love how well she expresses herself and the way that she talks. about things. I could never.
I mean, I've played her videos a couple of times on the show. I think this is the video I wanted to play.
Are feeling about TikTok going on without us, but I'm definitely feeling some FOMO. I'm definitely feeling like I'm being uninvited from the party. I mean, TikTok really feels like the only interesting place kind of left on the internet. I mean, I'm a millennial, so I've been around for a long time now, and the internet is certainly, I think, less interesting than it used to be because people used to have to seek out community, and there was community, there was a place for everyone. You know, there was Tumblr back in the MySpace days, even like chat rooms, websites that you would go to that had like chat forums where people could talk about.
Remember those days?
I loved
We're
MySpace.
such dinosaurs. Remember those days?
I loved MySpace. Is it Messenger? No.
Messenger, AOL Messenger.
Yeah, I used to use that one.
We feel like such relics.
Stop it!
So, I know.
Like your favorite TV shows or books. Like, you used to be able to seek out and find your people. It just took a little bit more work. And I don't love that, like, algorithmic engagement is really the only thing that matters on the internet right now. And, like, apps really feel limiting in terms of, like, what people have access to on the internet. But within that limited scope, TikTok is the only place worth spending any time. Like, Twitter is fucking, like, as dead can be. It's just overrun with spam and bullshit. Facebook obviously is like an AI hellscape for boomers exclusively. Instagram is like a place where I have an account for like my personal friends that I never use because none of them use it, and then it's basically just like a copy.
I like Instagram, but I don't like that you have to put so much effort into it.
I agree.
Like, it's so exhausting.
I don't even do that anymore. I just like just this week I think I posted some pictures of New Year's Eve. That was 2 weeks ago. But I can't be bothered anymore. It's not a priority. It's like, oh yeah, I have these photos I need to get rid of. Here's a photo dump. Like I just that's all I do.
That I need to get rid of.
Well, yeah. It's like it takes up space and everything, but like, yeah, but Instagram is just a place for photos and pictures. It's not, there's no conversation happening there.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
TikTok, where influencers and like other people put their content to make money, to monetize. So it feels like flipping through like, I don't know, like an Elle magazine or something. TikTok is the only place that feels like kind of like the old internet that I fell in love with as a kid. But from like a broader strokes perspective, like, I don't know, it reminds me a lot of the government censorship of the internet in China. Like, if you look at the actual wording of the TikTok ban, like the people who were up on this app for months being like, it's not actually a ban. They're technically right. It's worse than a ban. The language is much broader than that. Like, this sets a precedent for the US government to essentially cut off anything they don't like the American people having access to. And that's, it's fucking scary. Like, it's genuinely really scary, especially when you think about the incoming administration. And there is an irony to this because obviously Trump has said that he doesn't want TikTok to be banned. Of course, you can't really trust anything that man says, as you can't take it at face value. He also now says that he actually didn't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned. So it's like, okay, well, you started this whole thing, so I don't really know. It feels...
Yeah, don't trust Trump with anything. Although, what's funny enough, the TikTok CEO or founder was invited to his inauguration and has confirmed that he will be attending.
Interesting. I mean...
Kiss the ring?
Yeah. Absolutely insane to hope that Trump would do something that could be for the betterment of the American people, but I don't know. It's all very very weird, and I honestly do feel like a little bit it feels a little bit frivolous to be like, oh, everybody's gonna keep having fun with this on TikTok, but I do feel that as well. I just also feel this horrible dread in the pit of my stomach that what's coming is much worse. And not only do I think that this is going to have like massive repercussions on the US economy, it's a huge, I mean, literally TikTok Shop is second only to Amazon in the United States in terms of like actual sales. That's fucking crazy. And then you think about the book industry and the film industry and the music industry, and like the fact that they were basically saved by TikTok. So I don't fucking know. I'm trying not to think of the worst case scenario, but I don't feel great, and I don't like being left out. So I will be sad that other people. I mean, I don't want other people to not be able to enjoy it, but I'll be sad that I won't get to while other people get to. I don't know how other Americans.
There was this video that I saw that somebody was like, I don't want the US to not have TikTok. Like, this person was British or from Britain, and they were just like, we're not funny enough to keep this going.
They're not what? I'm sorry?
It was a girl, and she was British, and she goes, I don't want the US to not have TikTok anymore. Like, us Brits can't keep up with.
Yeah, Americans, look, I think look, we should just put it out there. I think the particular brand of humor that Americans on TikTok were able to bring to the platform, I think is especially unique because of the wonderful crises and disasters and just institutionalized pain that administration after administration has allowed us to feel. I don't think especially millennials, have this kind of embedded into their DNA.
Our coping mechanism is humor. Like,
yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. But also a lot of that humor comes from a place of truth. Like Jesus, like even who could have ever thought that something as mundane as the funeral of Jimmy Carter would be a hilarious event, but somebody on TikTok literally turned that into a Real Housewives reunion of like looking at the dais of all of the former presidents and just like, what an awkward situation, you know? It's like none of these people like each other, and all of them hate one particular individual that's sitting nearby them. By the way, I thought it was hilarious how Michelle dipped, and Michelle Obama, I should say, and how she announced she's not going to go to the inauguration. Like, she especially cannot like hide her disgust of Donald Trump, and I gotta say,
good for her.
There's a reason why she's the most popular person on that dais.
Mm-hmm.
She should have ran.
She should have ran.
She should have ran. And I'm not usually the kind of person that's like, you know, style over substance. I'm not the person that's like, okay, just give me this big name celebrity.
Literally elected a TV star, so
yeah,
more qualified than the president we're about to get. So, yeah.
But I also think Megan, who you just heard from in her TikTok, she also was a really good, unique voice when it came to talking about movies, and TikTok definitely contributed to that. And I think I pulled out this other video I wanted to where she talks about this specifically, where she says talking about movies on here has meant so much.
Reels, and it is just the worst over there. Like, all of the
she's referring to Instagram Reels.
The content is so vacuous and empty, and I do not think that there's a lot of hope for me building a following over there. But I just have to say, like, TikTok is special because it actually gave people community. Like, I know that people love to drag this app for all kinds of different reasons, but like, I saw a video earlier today of this woman talking about the fact that, like, she works at a bookstore, and no one is talking about the fact that TikTok is being banned because this entire industry does not realize how much of an impact TikTok has had and how devastating not having TikTok could be for them. And the thing is, people were engaged with things like book talk and film talk and like the idea of being engaged in culture on TikTok because you didn't have to be a big creator. There was incentive for people to join the conversation because anyone had the potential to be a leader in a conversation, to make a point that resonated with millions of people. And being engaged in reading as a community is a lot more interesting and fulfilling than just reading in a vacuum. And I love reading, I love watching movies, but being able to engage with the art, with other people, with the way that it made us feel, like, I would argue that the entire point of art is to connect us closer together.
Yeah. And
what people don't understand, like fucking Mark Zuckerberg and all these idiots who think that people are just going to flee back to Meta and all these other places, is
mine literally got hacked and I didn't download it again. I deleted it. I don't care.
There's a reason why TikTok hit it off so big, because people had left them already.
Yeah. And like, I think for a good couple years there, like Twitter was able to do that. But obviously not to the extent that TikTok has been able to do that for everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Like, obviously people have hated the switch, the very strong switch to TikTok Shop over here, because people don't want to be sold to. People want to be a part of something. They don't want to be advertised to. And that's what Meta is. That's what Meta is. So no, I don't think that, you know, I don't think that the book industry is going to just be exactly the same if they lose a platform like TikTok. I don't think the film industry or the music industry is. I think that people liked this because it was one of the last vestiges of real community in a world that is becoming increasingly isolating, and where people don't have third spaces or community in the same way that they used to. So yeah, not to make it like really a bummer, but that's a thing that I think was really special about TikTok. I'm obviously not giving up. I've faced a lot worse than this in my life. I've picked myself up from a lot steeper falls. And I'm actually really excited about the content that I have planned for other places. This is what I'm most excited about. I've been working on long form stuff there for the past couple of months. And
her YouTube, I think JS or J Stoops, Megan Cruz.
Obviously, the past couple of weeks have been a little bit of a setback, but I'm really excited, and I hope you guys enjoy the stuff I put out there. If you just like my reviews, follow me here. I'm getting much better.
Letterboxd, J Stoops again.
About reviewing logging every film that I watch there, and so that's a great way to keep track. And if you are on this platform already, I'm not trying to
J.Stoops for Instagram. That's what she's
force anyone there, because I'm only there resentfully as well. But you know, if you want to follow me there, that's great. I know that everybody's making basically the same video, and I know that I can be wordy, so I'll try to keep this short. But I can't thank you guys enough. Okay, you guys have opened doors for me that I gave up on a long time ago, and I have gotten to do things that I never ever thought that I would get to do, and I'm so unbelievably grateful. I'm even grateful to the people who have consistently like been my haters. Like I recognize commenters that come back, and they come back and leave comments all the time. They make me so happy. But even there are some people that are just like, they are determined. They've been my haters for a long time. Sometimes they'll come in my comments and I'm like, aw, what is this, like our 3-year anniversary? Like, give back. So, I don't know. You guys genuinely mean so much, and I can't thank you enough. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. But
I think every word of what she said is exactly how you and I feel, basically, about all kinds of things. But I think one of the things that I really liked what she said the most was that there was this particular kind of joy that we felt going on TikTok that reminded us of when it was first, like when we discovered the internet. When I first discovered what the internet was, it was just like, oh,
yeah,
like a kid in a candy store. It's like, what is this? What's going on? Wow. I was obsessed. And of course, TikTok was one of the few places left where it's like you could get a little bit of that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll find out what happens in a few days.
We'll find out. As Trump likes to say, he'll just keep us in suspense. I mean, that's just the guy's main thing. Is like he treats everything like it's a freaking reality show. He even said, I think, the day of Jimmy Carter's funeral, he was taking questions at an event later in the day, and he was commenting how it did look like he and Obama were getting along really well from the videos. And he was saying how they met backstage. And I'm like, that could have been that's a Freudian slip if I ever heard one. Like, when he means backstage, like, that's something people use when you're on a talent show or on Broadway or something. But like, oh, that's what he thinks this is. Don't forget that. That's what he thinks this is. This is House of Cards for him. And he's Frank Underwood. I mean, he's not as talented as Frank Underwood was, but he's the main character of this TV show. That's what this is to him. And we're all just along for the ride. We're just here along. But I think it would be pretty hilarious that if Trump did, like, save it, weirdly enough. And then what does that leave us?
Well, like I said, we hope for the best. Because we obviously don't want things to get worse.
Yeah. So many things, obviously. I mean, but there's still a good number of things that we haven't touched on just yet that we should kind of segue into. I don't know if there is a good enough way to segue into what comes next, but I think we're gonna give it our best shot regardless. Okay. There's so much that has happened, and we should talk about some of those things, right, Alexis? You haven't been on a show in about 2 to 3 weeks, I think. Since and by the way, I like the shows that you and I are on because I feel like we can kind of like have a real good conversation without being like weighed down by other individuals. That's all I'm gonna say. Because I feel like I love the show that we did last. Did you watch the last podcast?
I haven't finished it. I only watched like the beginning.
Well, there were a lot of moments where the whole thing got derailed because of you know who. Making some comments, and I'm like, oh god. One of my favorite moments of last week's episode was playing the clip for David of the song from Emilia Perez.
I saw that one.
So about that,
he apparently apologized.
It's what?
The director apparently apologized.
So I heard about that, and I'm like, I didn't think it was true. So do you know what the apology entailed?
No.
I'm not sure anyone's interested at this point because I think like who's gonna believe that apology? Jack Odiard very much clearly made the message was received.
I did see a clip
about how he felt.
Yeah. I did see a clip of because they had like their premiere in Mexico, and they were having an interview, and I didn't watch the whole clip, so it was just like the question. But one of the interviewers just flat out, so how do you feel about making a movie about Latin America with people not from Latin America?
And how did he respond?
I feel like he was a little bit shook, and he just kept like,
So here's the thing: people might be lost about what's going on. This clip will catch people up because I don't want to say it myself.
3 headlines I need to know. Like, where is the race right now?
You gotta see Emilia Perez.
I watched half of it.
Okay, well, you should probably watch the other half.
Okay.
I mean,
I sent Amanda a sort of panicked text yesterday. Yesterday or 2 days ago.
it was at like 7
This is
a.m.
happening.
But
It was like Emilia Perez
this
is
is just
happening.
like having a baby.
Like Emilia Perez is happening. And I don't hate Emilia Perez. I'm going to start by saying that. I don't hate it. I've seen it twice now. I think it's hugely flawed and kind of annoying. But there are things about it I do enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be one of the worst Best Picture winners of all time. There's no question about it. And it has strong... I'll tell you that what I'm feeling right now, very acutely, is Crash over Brokeback Mountain, Green Book over Roma. That to me will be...
We're so back.
Emilia Perez over The Brutalist or over Anora, depending on, your mileage may vary on those two. Well, we may look back on it in a similar fashion if that happens. So that to me feels like the kind of emerging headline out of all of these Guild nominations. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So
Even though I
That's
haven't
a
seen
lot.
The Brutalist yet, but
Well, other things came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I rebought tickets
But
today.
the Brutalist is surging. Would you say the Brutalist is?
I'm getting a lot of. I mentioned this earlier this week. I'm getting a lot of the opposite from people I know who are like, "It's the Brutalist. It's going to be the Brutalist. Buckle up. This is happening for sure." Both voters and people who are in the business have said that to me this week.
Okay.
So and maybe I'm in a little bit of like protect myself mode because I think it'd be really cool.
So you're seeing it sort of start to crystallize of Emilia Perez versus Brutalist.
The Brutalist.
And I think Honora and Conclave are kind of in third and fourth place, basically.
Okay.
But I agree with Sean, except to say that just Emilia Perez kind of is everywhere, and the below the line, and just like the sheer number of nominations and critics, it's sort of relentless. So I agree that there is a lot of respect for the Brutalist, and all the Brutal boys are texting Sean all the time, and that's beautiful. And what a
Thank you to
community
them.
you guys have.
Boys and girls.
But Emilia Perez, it's just like in every single
If you were a
guild,
betting
in
lady.
every single, and also you have to remember the International Academy. So
So I think that was a really good summary of where we're at. That was two clips from the Big Picture show with Sean Fennessy and Amanda Dobbins, which they're, I think, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. They're really really good interactive. They got a good back and forth there, but I think it's a good state of the race as to where we're at with awards and with the Best Picture race. Keeping in mind, of course, that we're kind of in this uncharted territory area because of the fires. Award season's been paused for the most part. Like we have gotten the nominations out for the rest of the people, like PGA, DGA, WGA, BAFTA. All those other places, they've revealed the nominations. Today, Oscar voting closed, but we've had no other award shows besides the Golden Globes because of what's happening in LA. In fact, I think it was just announced today that the very next show, the Critics' Choice Awards were supposed to happen, I think, last week. And they're not going to happen on Friday, February 7th.
Dang.
So it's been kicked back to that extent. And by the way, the day after the Critics' Choice will be both the, I believe, the Producers Guild and the Directors Guild. And I'm not even sure where we still need the Screen Actors Guild. We still need BAFTA. And then, of course, I think the Oscar nominations are happening either next week or the week after, I think maybe the week after. I can't tell you at this moment when exactly that's happening. But it'll be fascinating to see how those shows even look like when they come back. And how I think a lot of them are going to be a little bit like disadvantaged in striking the right tone after the tragedy that's happened. Good thing the Globes got that. they got in there right in the nick of time.
Oh no!
Right, like, because I think the Globes are like, we've had enough bad shows in a row. We need a good one this year, and thankfully they did deliver a good one for the most part. And we'll get to that one in a minute. But as far as the state of the race is concerned, this is the thing. It was already a volatile enough environment to begin with. Before you threw all of these things, all the tragedy into this bin. But this is the case is, unlike other years, there is no Oppenheimer. There is no Everything Everywhere All at Once, where it's just like stomping through and everyone's just like falling in line, and that's yet. But no, there is no perceived, it's obvious this person's going to take it. The scary thing is this does feel like 2018, where we're kind of down to like 2, 3, or 4, and no one's really sure what's going to happen there. And when we get to years like this, oftentimes the least desirable option ends up kind of like either coming close or completely pulling it off. 2018, by the way, was the rare year where we had not one, but 2 Oscar villains. We had Green Book, which ultimately won, and then Bohemian Rhapsody, which ended up being the second biggest winner of the night.
Oh.
That was a pretty, that's how it was. As far as this year is concerned, at the Golden Globes, the 2 big winners were Emilia Perez and The Brutalist. And I think those probably are the 2 that it comes down to. The Brutalist would probably be, I think the only way it wins is if enough people in the Academy are like, fuck Emilia Perez, I need to make sure it doesn't win. But the Academy, and obviously the industry, is not the internet and is not the majority of people. And how do we know that? Because what Amanda was just saying in that clip, every awards guilds, BAFTA, SAG, PGA, DGA, Gold Globes, Emilia Perez has cleaned up when it comes to nomination. And lest we forget, it won 4 Golden Globes. It won the most Golden Globes that night. And we need to remind ourselves that these new Golden Globes are a much larger body of people that are composed of international voters. And international voters are, well, that's all of BAFTA. And a lot of BAFTA happens to be inside the Academy itself. So, and it swept the European awards. So very clearly what has been communicated is that Emilia Perez is loved by the international voters, and it's very liked by a lot of the Hollywood I mean, James Cameron said it was like bold. Denis Villeneuve included it in his favorite movies of the year list alongside Queer. And I'm like, what? So like that alone, beside the nominations, tells you for whatever reason, this movie is just very well liked by the people who make these decisions. And if it's already there, and especially in a year where it's like this wide open, it's not impossible for Emilia Perez to come in there and win, especially when it's already winning. It's already winning. And I know I mentioned last week, I saw the movie. I don't hate it, but it's very bad. Again, I don't hate the movie, but it's bad, and the music is uniquely terrible. Uniquely terrible. There was a reason why we last week I played a clip of that Vagina's Penis song for David, and he was just like, the look on his face was just like, that's real? It would be very embarrassing. It probably would be the single most embarrassing winner, and I gotta tell you, Peter has been saying it's Emilia Perez. And I think oftentimes, Peter just goes with his gut. And I think he usually is right. Like he called Oppenheimer, he called Everything Everywhere. I think he even called, I don't know if he got Green Book right, but maybe he said Bohemian Rhapsody was pretty close that year. We've had some pretty good winners these last couple of years. We might be overdue for one that just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Alexis, I want to get your thoughts on all of this. Your thoughts on if Emilia Perez ends up pulling it. I think there's a very good chance, honestly. If anything, I think people are underestimating Emilia Perez because I mean, look, it's fair that there are a number of people I'm sure that hate it, but I don't know. The evidence, I think, is to the contrary. It's been appearing everywhere. It's gotten so many nominations. If that many people like it, and especially if it wins international film, which I think right now is the current frontrunner, and if it wins supporting actress for Zoe Saldana, which I think is the current frontrunner, that's 2 already. Coda only won Best Picture with 3. The third being Best Picture. It's there. I think it's very likely to happen. I mean, couple that, by the way, with today, I think Clayton Davis on Variety wrote that he's been speaking to Academy voters that couldn't even finish The Brutalist. Which evidently may be its main competition. All of that, Alexis, go ahead.
I mean, I feel I gave up as soon as Dune was out of the picture, so...
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because you know what? That is the thing that people have refused to really grapple with. Like, there's a lot of movies that are not being included, which is, terrible, because they really should be in the conversation. But if there's one from the get-go that just made me just not care anymore about this entire awards race, is how not only is Dune not in the conversation, but the absolute disrespect that it's being treated as. The absolute disrespect of it not being in the nominations for many things. The fact that Hans Zimmer was eliminated by the Academy saying, go fuck yourself, it's too much like the first movie. From the fact that this past week, what was it? Ironically enough, the BAFTAs and the Critics' Choice were the only groups to include Denis Villeneuve for Best Director. The Directors Guild. Look, it's one thing for the Globes to not nominate you, but the Directors Guild of America went with James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, and they went with Jack Audiard for Emilia Perez over Denis Villeneuve. He's not going to get nominated Oscar morning, I'm sorry to say. And in fact, even freaking like pundits on their podcasts saying, well, if there's one movie you want to kick out of every category, it's Dune, because very clearly none of the people in the industry feel the need to actually include it in their nominations. And that is, I got to tell you, uniquely enraging, because it feels like they're erasing Dune like it ever even existed. I remember what it was like when Dune Part 2 came out in theaters last March. It felt like a cinematic event.
I could not stop thinking about that movie for months. It's insane. But yeah,
I don't know what you want.
I give up as soon as that started happening, because I'm like, I'm sorry, but there's no other movie. Like, there was good movies, you know, but there's no way. Like,
but by the way, there are also plenty of other good movies that aren't even like what happened to Challengers? What happened to Challengers? Yeah, it won, thankfully enough, for best score. Go Globes.
To be fair, I know a lot of people that did not like that movie, so that one wasn't that much of a surprise. It's a surprise that they did not like it.
How many of those are normie individuals and not the? I gotta say, I think
That's
Challengers
true, yeah.
played better. I think it should play better with film people. I think it has.
Yeah.
It has great ratings and reviews. So what was it? Because it doesn't have prestige. It was a box office hit, by the way. It was a box office hit. It was also a cultural impact. Hello? So I agree with you. As soon as that wasn't part of it, it kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah.
But it got worse, Alexis. It got worse than that. Because then this little movie called Emilia Perez, which I don't even know why people are saying Emilia Perez. It's not a Mexican film. It's a French film. Call Emilia Perez.
And then isn't the main actress, isn't she from like Spain?
The only Mexican I think that was affiliated with this movie was Selena Gomez. And isn't that like right? Zoe Saldana I think is Dominican, and Carla Sofia Gascon is from Spain. So if you wonder why it's this perfect storm of Spanish sounding very awkward and weird, I don't know what you think is going to happen when you have a Dominican's version of Spanish, a Spaniard's version of Spanish,
which
and an
they're not.
American's
There's nothing wrong
version
with
of
them.
Spanish.
It's just the movie that itself.
Yes.
Like, that's what it's trying to get across, and it's like.
Well, I think the whole point is that Jack Audiard dropped the ball. Like, he didn't care enough to. He admitted it himself. He didn't care enough to put in the work, which is why it feels so inauthentic. Like, if you had somebody who cared about any sort of consistency, there would have been probably better people hired to be vocal coaches and language coaches, to kind of make them all, sound better. But at the very same time, like, the Golden Globes gave El Mal, the song from Emilia Perez, best song, which I think also just speaks to just the lack of contenders this year for best song, I gotta tell you. Although I will say there are 2 songs from Smile 2 that I think should be in the conversation. I'm gonna put that out there. I was listening to 2 of those songs over the weekend, and I'm like, they're bangers. They're great freaking. Remember, you and I were looking at each other when we were watching Smile 2, and like,
I literally
this
was
is
like,
pretty great.
Wait, I missed the Brat tour that day. I literally was like, this is fulfilling that
Right.
need to be there.
Yeah. So, like, again, like, why aren't those being considered? But anyway, like, Emilia Perez is probably the worst musical, just from the standpoint of the fact. Well, there's a lot of standpoints, but exclusively because the music isn't good. Go ahead.
Would Willy Wonka have been for this year?
No.
Oh.
Last year.
I get confused
also,
in the December movies.
I know. Even some January films are from the year before. That's
I mean, I feel like even Mean Girls probably had better songs.
Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, but no, the Wonka movie was from last year and it had 0 nominations. Emilia Perez is just a really awkward mess of a movie. I can't say, if I were to remove how awarded it's been, it wouldn't be a movie that I would hate. And I really don't hate the movie. I hate the fact that it's being propped up as the best thing ever made. I hate the fact that it kind of like makes you really realize just how vapid a lot of the power players in LA and Hollywood really are, to think that Emilia Perez is something that is just so bold, so brave, so original. It's really eye-opening. And if that's the case, if it wins Best Picture, I gotta tell you, would I be surprised? No. No. And the Oscar for Best Picture goes to Emilia Perez.
I feel like that's gonna happen.
I think we need to be bracing ourselves for that. I will say though, I don't know, this might make me look, I'm not a perfect person, and I fully acknowledge that there are aspects about myself that are kind of sick, but like I do get joy out of seeing a lot of these award pundits cry about how terrible the nominations are, especially because they had a hand in sinking some of my favorites. So it kind of just feels like, okay, at least I can get that. I mean, but also it's kind of empty happiness too, because I also don't disagree with them. It's like, yeah, it's pretty bad how things have fallen. But I do want to say, I want to congratulate the British Academy, BAFTA, for the 3rd year in a row. You have personally gone out of your way to screw over my favorite movies and people of the year. In 2022, they completely destroyed Steven Spielberg and The Fabelmans' chances of winning anything. Last year in 23, they did the same thing with Flower Moon by snubbing Scorsese in director and snubbing Lily Gladstone in Best Actress. If you want to know why Lily Gladstone lost, thank the British Academy for that. And this year, Challengers destroyed completely, no nominations, as well as Queer. So Luca Guadagnino gave us 2 of the best movies of the year, and they were like, and more importantly to me, they were like, because they snubbed, the only nomination that Queer was in contention for was Best Actor for Daniel Craig. They nominated 6 actors, and Daniel Craig was not one of them. And if we wake up Oscar morning to Daniel Craig not getting an Academy Award nomination, it'll be because of them. 3 years in a row. We need to cancel the BAFTAs. I seriously do feel we need a purge of a lot of these people who have any power in these bodies, because it is beyond ridiculously absurd. Every single year we have this same situation pop up, and I'm just like, can we give Alexis Soto a bone? Can we just not do this? Like, some reprieve here. So yeah, that's what, and the thing is, like, I just don't necessarily care anymore about like who ends up winning. Like, I mean, I'll watch, but like the joy isn't there. Like, when you have an award season where the wrong people are being nominated and the right people are nowhere to be seen, it just makes it really insufferable.
At least if they were nominated, like, it would be interesting. But like, they're just not at all.
There are some, I guess, there are some people that might be worth getting invested in, like if Demi Moore wins Best Actress for The Substance, that would be pretty kind of like, whoa, somebody winning Best Actress for a horror movie? And the fact that The Substance has done so well across nominations, it's like, I can't remember a horror movie in the modern day doing this well.
Yeah.
Beside Get Out, in nominations. So, and having seen The Substance, very much well deserved for being included. But yeah, it's pretty bad. I do want to ask you though, before we move off of this, you have not had the opportunity to discuss the Globes themselves this year. I know it's kind of like an old conversation to have, but you know, considering how much time and effort you and I have talked about the Globes and how much the history of that show has meant for you and I think it's appropriate to have that full conversation. We didn't talk about them too much as far as last week's show because I know Peter doesn't care, so I kind of like just don't. And we had other things to get to. So as far as like where we are here, I think we have maybe perhaps a chance to do a real review of things. I gotta say, like every year it's a mixed bag. There are things about it that need to like go away, and like that definitely didn't work. But I think the big picture, it could not have been a bigger home run, honestly. In comparison to, like, you got to keep in mind, the last 2 years have been awful. You had Joe Coy, and before that you had, I forgot his name, but that was terrible.
Oh,
yeah.
That was so bad.
This, I mean, if it had been a third year in a row of like as bad or worse, it would have been like,
it could have been done.
Honestly. So it very much wasn't that. And by some miracle, not completely unscathed, but they were able to have perhaps the best broadcast they've had in quite some time. I think you feel the same way, and I'd like to hear your thoughts overall on the show.
Yeah, I thought they were so fun. I mean, she was amazing. Like,
Nikki Glaser was
oh
great.
my god. I think they had already started and I couldn't see them. Like, it just wasn't working for me as per usual. And so I had to run to TikTok and catch up a little bit. And luckily, like, I was able to see it. And then once I did, that's when we started, like, oh my god, when she said this. Oh my god, when she said that. It was amazing. She did so.
I thought what was funny, she started her monologue. Welcome to the Golden Globes. Zepic's biggest night, and then immediately, like, if you're watching on CBS, hi. If you're watching on Paramount Plus, you have 7 days to cancel your free trial, which made me think of you, because I'm sure that's what you were trying to do anyway, and still it didn't end up working for you.
Again. But yeah, no, I thought it was so good. I honestly was more entertained by that than like the nominations and the speeches and all of that stuff. Like, just because, I mean, we talked about it for a whole hour earlier, but like, it's just like not interesting. And then I also enjoyed like the people watching and stuff like that, so that was fun. Yes,
which is a part of the DNA of the show. Last year, we were very critical of the producers. It was their first time on CBS, and I think our observations were that the new CBS people, they were trying to make the Globes be something that they weren't. They were trying to turn them into the Oscars, be a little bit more, I guess, serious. Yes, and that they had lost their identity. I think this year was a complete role reversal. I think they remembered what the Globes are supposed to be, and they were advertising it as such. On TikTok, I was getting ads of Nikki Glaser and even CBS promoting the Globes by using clips of celebrities doing wacky stuff on stage, which is exactly what the Globes are. And I think, it wasn't a perfect telecast. It never is. It never will be. There are things that need to definitely be improved upon. beside that, though, I think on the whole, what made this show successful was that they understood who they're supposed to be and their place in the overall award season. And it begins by hiring someone to be the face of your broadcast who can deliver on the brand of humor that the Globes are known for. And they literally could not have picked a better individual than Nikki Glaser. Thank God she did that Tom Brady roast. That probably is what landed her the job. And she crushed it. She crushed it. Like, and honestly, we're probably going to see her back for years to come. And at this point, why would you go with anybody else?
I know.
She, her brand of humor, we were talking about it with Peter, like, this is the perfect tone. She walked the finest of fine lines. And do you see how quickly she won that room over? And the difference that room behaved this year versus last year with Joe Coy.
Yeah, because, like, apparently those were the tame jokes.
Yeah,
but she was, like,
they really were
hitting hard. But, like, I feel like a lot of the people were just kind of like, okay, like, we're back.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, I'm sure many of the people in that room who were also there last year were like,
because it was
God.
like, I mean, the big difference between last year and this year is that the roasting was about the people in the room rather than just, like, this big kind of.
Would you even consider what Joe Coy did last year roasting on any level?
No. That's what I'm saying.
You can't even qualify them as jokes.
Offensive jokes at that.
God, no, but the thing is, Nikki understood what the Globes are. And the thing is, what I kept saying is that, look, when Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Ricky Gervais did the show, they understood, yes, you go after, in some ways, the people in the room, then also the biggest stories that shaped Hollywood. This is why the Globes were a bigger show than just movies. This is why they also had TV. It's really kind of like the Globes are like this reunion of Hollywood, right? You also have pop stars in the room a lot of the times because of the song nominations. And so she understood, like, everybody important is here, and let's go ahead and have fun with it. And I think she... In some areas, she did hold back because this is her freshman year. And I think judging by a lot of the jokes that were cut, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And I think next year we can kind of push it a little bit more. You know, you don't want to, like, flame yourself completely the first year. The one that, man, I really wish I think all of the ones that were cut, I wish you would have
amazing.
said. But the Alec Baldwin one is especially evil. And I love it about, you know, the fact that he wasn't in Beetlejuice because he was too busy making ghosts. Like,
dude, that's so funny.
I just imagine the reaction in that room.
Oh, man. Man. She should have said it.
She really should have, honestly. Hoping next year that she will say a little bit more of those, because that's exactly what my idea of a Golden Globes joke is, and a memorable one at that as well. The overall shade of Joker 2 was hilarious. Even how she ended the monologue by, like, saying, we don't know it now, but years from now, we're going to be looking back on some clips of this show and, like, looking at somebody in the room like, oh, this is before this happened. And then even further going, and then she landed the joke by saying, like, it could be a woman. Probably 100% of the time it's always a man. Kind of like Best Director.
Even
she got the assignment.
Like, the presenters and stuff, like, they were, like, good too. Vin Diesel.
This is the thing too. You got this is why this was a year that the Globes were back, because look, the Globes are also unbridled chaos, and sometimes the Globes also feel uncomfortable. That's what they are. And Vin Diesel definitely brought that.
I love that. I think
the
that's
look
what
on
I
the
started
Rock's
watching,
face.
because I went downstairs and I was like, what did I walk into?
Yeah, they had moments like Vin Diesel, Seth Rogen coming on here with Catherine O'Hara, and immediately Seth Rogen was like ripping the producing team to shreds for this whole because when the presenters go out, they don't go out to the middle of the stage and address the ballroom. They either look in this direction with half of the crowd behind them, or they go in the other direction with half of the crowd behind them. And Seth Rogen was like, "What is this whole thing with half of the room seeing my bald spot?" Again, that's the kind of energy we want the presenters to. That's why the presenters feel like they're a bigger part of this telecast than they are any other show, because you kind of want those celebrities to have moments like that. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it the show. And then also, you had, I think, 2 big awards season moments with back-to-back big wins and speeches with Demi Moore and Sebastian Stan. And especially with Sebastian Stan, made it feel like it was a big moment in Hollywood, because it felt like a big fuck you to all of the people who would not appear with him on the Actors on Actors. And him also recognizing that moment by not just, it was a win for a different man, right? That was the name of the movie, or different. But he was also mentioned The Apprentice, which also got nominations this week in other guilds. But he was singled out, unfairly so, by a lot of the people in the industry. And him, winning the Golden Globe, him getting nominated he might get nominated for an Oscar, who knows, come nominated. And that's a big step up for his career. And I think the Globes gave him a lifeline. If the Globes had not given him that, he wouldn't have had that speech, and maybe he wouldn't have gotten those other nominations down the line. Because you got to keep in mind, the Globes don't have too much carryover with any of the other groups, but why they're so important and relevant for the season is because they're the first people to have a televised event, and the first crop of winners can come up there and give a speech, and all the people at home who are watching can say, do we want to anoint this person, or do we want to destroy this person in favor of somebody else? That's why, for better or for worse, I like the fact that the Globes split their categories into genre, because we can have 2 different kinds of winners to try out for who eventually will be, Miss America, basically, when we come to the Academy Awards at the end of the season. So to me, the beginning of the season is always so much fun versus the end of the season, which, and you know what? I'll tell you this. Last year's Oscars were the best produced Oscars we've had in quite some time. In large part because of Ryan Gosling. And I'm just Ken.
I'm trying to remember what happened, but yes.
Yeah. So that was a big wow, they finally had a song that they didn't screw up completely, and the whole room lost their shit when he went on there and performed that song. And here's hoping that this year would be even better with Conan O'Brien hosting. I'm very looking forward to what he can do.
Conan O'Brien.
Yes. I mean, Conan had one of the most viral moments of last year with his appearance on Hot Ones, which made me laugh for months.
He just lost his parents.
Oh.
In a span of days.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
Not to bring the mood down.
I know. Also, one of the things that helps the Globes is that they have a pretty good pace. They don't have an in memoriam. Speaking of bringing the mood down. I will say though is I do think that they need to stop wasting too much time on the comedy special and box office achievement. I think if you want to have those awards, it is. If you want to have those awards, have them. But why does box office achievement get 10 minutes of screen time versus acting awards getting maybe 3? Also, they had clips for all the comedy specials, but not for most of the acting announcement. Oh, okay. TV. Did anybody interesting on TV win?
I don't even know who was nominated.
No, exactly.
Well, no. I mean, the only one I was kind of interested in is Emma Darcy.
Oh, she didn't win, right?
I don't know.
I guess Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell won for The Penguin.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, there was that one. I can't remember any of the other ones. I'm just like, oh, I guess it's that. Honestly, TV lately has just been a flat line for me. I've just not cared.
Last year was pretty good. So this year, I mean, well, not like 2024, like 2023. But yeah, the only thing I kept up with was the Penguin and House of the Dragons. So
yeah, Shogun won most of the awards.
Oh yeah,
I think.
Shogun too. I haven't watched that one, so yeah, but I've heard really good things about it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I and look, the Globe's ratings went up. Glacier got a lot of publicity for it. I think she really saved the show, and I think yeah, good going for them. And also shout out to the Globes for the women nominated didn't win, but they nominated 2 women for director this year. It's a little bit of progress.
Yeah.
And the Globes have consistently included women in the list of nominees, so just to put that out there. Although, of course, Emilia Perez, oh my goodness.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, there are some things you still have to... I know we've been at this for 2 hours, but there's still some things you need to talk about, Alexis. Like, for example, fuck everything else going on. There was a pretty big trailer that happened in December. It's a pretty big trailer that happened, and that was called Superman. And last week on the show, I'm not sure if you saw it, but like we were in the middle of our Nosferatu review, and we literally said, fuck this, just so we can actually talk about the trailer, because we had been off for 2 weeks and didn't get a chance to actually talk about it. So, Alexis, what do you think about Superman?
Oh my god. Man, I didn't know you guys talked about it last time. Whatever.
It's in the timestamps. If you need the timestamps, it's there.
I don't. Because I'm usually driving. I'm so excited.
I'm not even giving a thumbs up. I don't... Oh, look. God. Gotta cover my thumbs.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I like was running around my whole office just being like, look at the new trailer. Look at the new trailer. I'm so excited. And then that day I called my dad and I'm like, you need to watch the Superman trailer. And he was like, I don't know. And Superman is his favorite superhero. And so I like sent it to him. And then he's like, oh my god, I will go down to San Diego to go watch it with you guys. And then after that, it was just like Superman on my brain. Oh.
I'm just going to put this up here so Alexis can talk about it. And we see it while the review is happening. Go ahead, Alexis.
Oh my god. And looks so good. I can't.
As Clark Kent and Superman. He looks perfect. I mean... This is exactly how we felt like when David was cast. David Cornsweet.
That like
not David, her brother.
Scene, and then with Krypto.
Yeah.
And she looks amazing. I love her so much, but like I'm so excited to see her in this role.
This is now a live reaction. Basically.
I can't. I'm just so excited.
It looks really
music,
good. I gotta tell you.
The poster?
We didn't talk about the poster, did we? Oh my god.
The poster was amazing. And then I saw it in when we went to because I went to go watch Nosferatu Christmas Day. And in the theater that I went, it's like the graphic movie posters, like they you know, and they had this Superman poster.
Oh man.
Oh my god. And I can't.
It's been weeks, but I still haven't had the chance to see this in theaters yet.
That scene literally made me cry. Like this whole trailer just made me cry.
Yeah, for our audio listeners, you're not going to be able to get the full experience. If you go on YouTube and go to this exact moment, you'll see I have my iPad and I'm playing the trailer in front of Alexis to see just to look at these. It's a perfect trailer. Like every shot, this is everything that we needed. And like this is, I think, a true testament that is a reminder that James Gunn was the perfect person to do this movie, and all those people who have issues with him should never be listened to ever again.
Ugh,
ever again.
Just looks so good.
It really does.
I literally can't. I'm so excited. After I saw the trailer, I kept watching it over and over again, and then Christmas Eve, I went back home and I stayed with my parents. I made my dad start watching Superman and Lois, and he's almost done with it because it's so good. You guys need to watch it. And after that, we saw the Christopher Reeves documentary.
I'll tell you this. I'm going to for sure watch Superman and Lois the closer we get to the movie. In fact, I might even watch it after the movie because I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is I'm going to watch Superman. I'm going to be in love with it. And I'm going to need something to hold me over. So I'm going to watch it after. In fact, well, we'll see. I think maybe we can turn Superman and Lois into a reaction series.
I'm so down.
Maybe it'll be the next one that we do after we're done with S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know when we're going to be done with S.H.I.E.L.D., but like whenever we're done with doing that one, maybe we can do Superman and Lois.
I'm so down.
So, that's an idea we can play around with the closer we get to it. But no, it was perfect. And I gotta tell you, I know that some people were having some reservations about like the look of it, but I don't know. I think people are insane. The more, they really are. The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm like, I love the look of this. And as you were saying, yeah, the music was completely the best that it could possibly be. I think the suit, I gotta tell you, it looks perfect. It's really a joke to me how we couldn't have gotten this like such a long time ago, right?
I'm just so excited.
Yeah. I think what also is really encouraging is the fact that not only does it look as good as it does, but the amount of views that it received would lead you to think maybe we don't need to be as worried about it as we were as far as this box office perspective was concerned, because we were worried after Joker Follow You Do. We had this discussion on the show, like, okay, we've had like 2 to 3 years of like 6 to 7 DC films like being historic, legendary box office failures. This is not a good preamble to Superman opening up, but considering the views that the trailer received, maybe it doesn't have to worry about it, despite the fact that it's going to be opening around the same time as the new Jurassic World and Fantastic Four. But I'm going to make this prediction, and I got to tell you, you know what? That's not even fair. I'm not going to call it a prediction because it's not even a question. It's not even a question. Superman is going to be beloved, and we're all going to love it. Fantastic Four and Jurassic World Rebirth are not even going to register. I will say though, maybe Jurassic World might have a chance because Colin Trevorrow is not involved anymore, and David Koepp wrote the movie, and he is the one who wrote the first movie.
Yeah, and I mean Jonathan Bailey. But yeah, I'm actually kind of excited for that one.
So there's a chance that movie might actually be pretty
Fantastic
good.
Four.
So, like,
I'm excited because it's the Fantastic Four, but like it just feels a little too late.
Well, speaking of too late, like next month we're gonna get Captain America: Brave New World, and we'll see, but like I'm really curious to see not only how it's received, but how well it actually does, box office wise, is concerned. Because you know what, the Marvel movies had been on a very downward trend, I should say. Deadpool and Wolverine kind of like undid everything, but I don't know. Maybe we'll look back at Deadpool and Wolverine as people saying this is the last one we're gonna go to. Not that the rest of Marvel movies are not going to make money. They're going to make money. But are they going to make money as much as they used to? Like, because the average before would be $700 million minimum. $700 million minimum, $1 billion maximum. That was the range. But now, are we going to be looking at between 400 to 600? That's a significant decline of audience. So at the moment, I think that they are looking at like Brave New World getting to 500 to 600 million, which isn't terrible, but it's not good either for a movie of that, especially because like I'm pretty sure they spent over 500 million just to get the thing out in circulation because of all those reshoots. It'll be interesting. I think we'll all watch it, but I think we all have grave doubts.
Thunderbolts come out?
I think July? No. That can't be right, because that's... Look, let me just search it up, because like I obviously do not know. But it can't be close to Fantastic Four, right?
I want to say it is.
So Thunderbolts is going to come out May 2nd. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. They're all kind of front-loaded. So Brave New World is in February. Thunderbolts is in May. And then Fantastic Four, I believe, is going to be in July.
Wow.
And even... Look, this is why, I feel for you guys. I know you and Peter, you're excited, but, I'm not. And everything that comes out of it is just a reminder of why would I be? Okay, you're going to get Matt Shackman, who is not a director, really, to do the movie. And then you call the movie Fantastic Four, The First Steps. What kind of a title is that? Yes, July 25th is when the movie is going to come out. May 2nd for Thunderbolts, and then February for Brave New World. I will say, though, this summer, I think it's actually going to feel like summer.
Yeah. Because I was just about to say that.
This last one was not it. There's nothing that came out except that was Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine, and was not good. Not good at all. So... I think as far as big releases, fingers crossed, we might have some potential to work with this year, especially in the summertime. But yeah, it was the first really big trailer that just made us feel excited.
Yeah.
For something of that scale in a very long time.
It definitely felt 2016.
Yeah. That's exactly what I said. I think we haven't had the chance to ask you your feelings on some things just yet. So we saw two movies. Well, you saw it on your own, and you saw it again with us. We saw two movies together. We saw Nosferatu and we saw Queer. Very different movies, but also I think they may have more in common than one would think. I think for a double feature, it was unique in how horny they were. Not the conventional kind of horny either, too. I think in both respects. So it was a really interesting double feature. But I will say, both movies were among my favorites of the whole year, and it may or may not have immediately catapulted itself into my top 5. Just putting it out there, they kind of did some things for me that I was really hoping the whole year I would get to see. It's to me it was a great double feature because it just felt like what it's supposed to feel like when you go to the cinema. And both of those are great examples of just these pieces of art. These works were great pieces of art. I apologize. It's Friday on a It's late on a Friday night. I can't even speak anymore. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I'm gonna throw it over to my my counterpart here, who I think has a better grasp on the English language right now than I do. Go ahead, Alexis. You can choose to start however you want to in whichever film. I get the feeling perhaps there's one film that obviously is preferable to the other one. I totally get it. We talked about both of these movies last time around, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. But like, I will say, like, we were talking about Megan earlier, Jay Stoops, and like how rewarding it can be to have, engagement and interaction with movies. And despite the fact that film Twitter is just not what it once was, obviously anymore, there were still plenty of people who were on there that make observations, and I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that, and I love you for pointing that out there. Especially with Queer, there was like so much to look into and read into that I couldn't on a first watch, and so I had to look out and find some things. And then this week, Queer went digital, and so people are purchasing the film and watching it at home, and they're making even more observations about it, which I really love. So, and Nosferatu isn't far behind. I think it'll be on digital either next week or the week thereafter. So that means we can watch it whenever we want. And I can't wait for people to put that out on there as well. So since you can speak, Alexis, go ahead and take the reins.
So yeah, I saw it Christmas Day, Nosferatu, and this was like, I think Dune, and this one was the one I was looking forward to the most. And it sucks because I got one the beginning of the year, and then the next one literally at the end.
Yeah.
It's so good. I had like a smile on my face the whole time.
Me too.
Just, I mean, and just like the fact that it's like this character. I mean, I think we were in like middle school or maybe like the beginning of high school, which is like when I started to get into like black and white movies a little bit. And this one was one that me and my best friend were like, oh, we have to see this. I ended up watching it without her. She got mad at me. But yeah, I was just so excited to see it, and then like to learn the connection that the director has with this movie and this character. You could just feel that throughout the whole movie, and I think everybody did so well. Everybody looked amazing. The movie looked amazing. The story, I mean, everything. I loved it so much. And then it was funny because I went to go watch it with my parents. And it, like I said,
that was a choice.
That was a choice. We were gonna, it
on
was
Christmas Day.
It was between this one and
Timothée Chalamet. And by the way, I also went to go see a movie on Christmas Day with the family. And I did go see Timothée Chalamet with them, and they ended up liking it quite a bit.
I haven't seen that one, but I do really want to see it.
It's exactly what you think it is, but it's good. Mm-hmm. But Timothy is great in it, and the music is actually pretty interesting. I think, if anything, it got me interested in Bob Dylan. So, yeah. Hey, there's that, So, I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah. And so, it was also between those two. But I said, no, I have to watch Nosferatu. Like I said, it was anticipated movie for me.
Even though you did watch it again with us later on.
I did. It turned out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although that was not a great experience for you, it turns out. Let's take a detour from the movie itself real quick, because you and I have some horror stories to share with us. It very well could have been the single worst experience maybe ever, maybe of the whole year. At least for me and Peter, when we first watched it on our own, we were located near these group of people who were literally talking the entire time. And they were talking for like 10 minutes straight, and you could not at all pay attention to anything happening in the movie. It was so bad that somebody actually complained, and they were successfully removed from the theater. But of course, this person had to be garbage completely. And as she was being ejected from the theater, she was calling everybody snitches and saying that we should all have all minded our own damn fucking business. So that's how bad it got. But then when we watched it together, you seem to have found yourself in a similar situation. You want to, because I heard mumbling going on behind me, but maybe because I had already been exposed to a worse version of it, that I kind of like tuned it out, but not completely. It was getting on my nerves too. But I was like, you know what? But the movie's too good, so I was like, trying to get into it.
The second viewing, I don't really count for myself because that day that we went to go watch the movie,
you were not feeling it, were you?
I watched the first one and I was like fully awake. But that day that we went, I wasn't hungover, but I had a wedding the day before, and I was.
Just say you were hungover.
I was not.
Just say you were hungover.
I swear I wasn't, but I was just so tired because I had like that week before, I worked, drove to Arizona, was there for like a day, drove back, had to get stuff ready for the wedding, had the wedding. And then went to the movie. Like, I was exhausted. I got sick, like, the weekend after. Because I was so tired. And so when we watched when we watched Nosferatu, I was out. And then I took a blanket. I was out. But the people behind us that were talking...
To be fair, though, you didn't take the blanket for yourself.
I did, yeah. Uh-huh.
You know, it was for Peter.
Yeah. It was for Peter.
Yeah, it was for Peter, and because he was freezing. And then at some point, he gave it back to you, and you basically were in a cocoon at the theater.
And I just knocked out.
You?
And the people behind me kept waking me up.
That's the complaint here. How dare they wake me up?
I mean, not that they were waking me up, but that they were talking loud enough to, like, wake me up. When the movie is pretty loud.
It really was.
Yeah.
We had great sound in that theater room.
We literally were next to the speaker.
Yeah.
And I could hear them more than I heard the movie. So that's why I was like... And I just kept looking at you specifically. Being like, are you going to say something? But you weren't looking at me.
I was watching the movie. I'm sorry. That's what I was there to do. I was like, hey, I want to watch Nosferatu again. And that's what I wanted to do.
But yeah. Loved the movie. Loved everything about it. And I hope that this kind of revives like these types of movies. Because I just want more. And then Queer. Queer was interesting. Can I stop you there
for a second? I'm not done with Nosferatu, though.
Oh.
I actually want to read some stuff about it, just so we can get, just some perceptions about it. Matt Neglia at Next Best Picture said, Robert Eggers continues his impressive streak of crafting highly detailed and transportive period films with Nosferatu. I can't read today, Lily Rose Depp gives every ounce. I know. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to read this. Enough. I rage quit. I'm not reading this review. This is too much. Some of these things are way too long anyway. Here's one by Houston Coley. We must all know and crucify the darkness within ourselves before there can be salvation. The screenplay, oh my God. The screenplay in this film was perfect. Every word of dialogue was just like a really big part of what made this so successful. But this line...
That's actually right there, something I really enjoyed from both movies. But, I mean, obviously this one is more like dramatic and, because of how the movie is. So, yeah, just... amazing.
It says animals are interesting here. Count Orlok clearly is a rat, driven purely by greedy hunger, spreading disease and malady. Clearly clever enough to scurry back to his hole when necessary. The screenplay compares him to a rat whenever he bites his victims. But Orlok is accompanied by dogs. Dogs serve a master eager to please. Orlok even treats Herr Nock, like a dog and refers to him as such. And when she is under Orlok's shadow, Alan behaves like a loyal dog too. The screenplay even compares her to a puppy multiple times, like when she pleads with Thomas not to call the doctor. Alan, under Orlok's curse, seeks to please him like a pet. Alan, however, is not a pet, and despite the societal expectations of the time, she resists domestication. In fact, there's a reason all the trustworthy people in the film have no affiliation with dogs, like Dr. Sievers. When Dr. Sievers comes to greet Professor von Franz, which is Willem Dafoe, for the first time, he says in Latin, "Do not reveal what is sacred to dogs." And von Franz responds, "Or cast your pearls before swine." Dafoe's residence is populated not by dogs, but by cats. And especially in the screenplay, Alan's cat, Greta, seems to appear and reappear in the scenes where things feel most safe. The calm before each storm. On the page, there's an endearing little exchange between Thomas and Alan about him being covered in cat hair every time he goes to work because Greta is always cuddled up next to them in bed. When Dafoe visits Alan, he feeds and pets Greta and asks her, "Is this cat yours?" To which Alan responds, "She has neither master nor mistress, and therefore no need to please." Where a dog must do the will of its owner, a cat is something wilder. Nearing the final night, Dafoe tells Alan that in another era, you might have been a priestess of Isis. Isis is a god. Yeah. Isis is a goddess in Egyptian mythology, the very mythological culture which revered cats as divine beings and supernatural seers. Night passes and daybreak arrives, bringing redemption. With Alan lying on her deathbed, the burning sunrise pouring into the room, and Professor von Franz scattering lilacs all around, little Greta scampers out of her hiding place and von Franz handles her gently. She may well be needed in the coming days, with all these rats still in the streets. Cats, after all, are natural predators. That's a really interesting observation.
That is.
That went over my head completely. I didn't even realize, but now that you put this all there, it's like, oh yeah, there's actually quite a bit that the movie dedicates to the rats and the cats and I guess the dogs also.
I mean, yeah, that's really cool to like see that. I feel like a lot of people's favorite thing about the movie, and definitely mine, is just kind of this it's Lily's character, you know, this thing of like, oh, when her and Thomas have that argument of like her being what is the word that she used, like dirty or like unfit or whatever,
unclean or something
unclean,
like that.
And he's just
or
like
tainted,
and he's just basically like, no, like, you're my wife, bro. And just like him being there for her, like, I love stories like that of like just women being human and people seeing them for that and not for what like society implements in us. I loved like that aspect of the movie a lot, and I'm glad that that's what people got out of it as well.
No, it was one of these movies where I was just completely in it, and immediately as it was over, I was like, this is easily one of my favorite movies of the year, and probably one of my favorite horror films in a long time. Because it was like a great kind of horror where I was just having so much fun all the way throughout. Like I can't believe people walked out and like they weren't in love with it as much as I was, because I was like, what are you people looking at?
I know.
Do you not have taste? Insane. Anyway, I cut you off about Queer. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. that one, I mean, we had talked about it before, like we knew it was coming up and stuff. And the movie looked beautiful, and
oh yeah,
it was so like interesting to watch. But definitely, like when I walked out, like I do need to watch it again after our conversation afterwards. But like when we walked out, or at least when I walked out, I was like, I felt like this was a good movie, but I don't understand most of it.
I thought exactly the same way. Not
like I felt like I was missing
time.
something that like was clearly there, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, no, I felt the same way too. I remember just like, I know I walked out and I watched something kind of great because of the visual just auteurism that was on screen and all the things that were in the acting and the emotion, obviously, but there was still this lingering feeling like, well, I'm not sure still because there's something that I know that I'm missing. I'm just not smart enough to know what the hell that it was.
Exactly. That's what I felt like. Yeah. And so because of that, I feel like other people might feel the same way. And if they have to look into like why things happen or why the movie is the way that it is, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a problem a little bit. Like, I don't mind looking into it, but I'm not sure other people would appreciate to have to do that. So I'm like, okay. But I mean, yeah, like once you guys kind of explained like what a lot of things meant, it was kind of like, oh, that's really cool.
And when I was explaining them, I still didn't necessarily know all of it myself. Like, and since then, I've shared clips with you guys of other people's interpretations of it, and I'm like, oh, okay. I think the thing that I'm still not sure about what it means is that damn centipede. There's like different things that people keep in mind about it. I want to read this review if you would indulge me, because it's one of these that I think it was a really good like way of talking about the movie. This was by self-described Willem Dafoe enthusiast on Letterboxd, Brian. His Twitter handle is Midsomars. And he's watched Queer like I think 8 times at least.
Wow.
And I know. This is what he says. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows how obsessed I am after seeing this movie. This is a review from December 11th. After seeing this movie for the first time last weekend and considering this is my 4th viewing it since, obsessed is an understatement. Every time I see this movie, I'm tempted to go back and watch it again. If only movie tickets in New York City weren't $20, and I'm too lazy to head up to Lincoln Square and use AMC A-List before this has a wider release. I have a lot of thoughts on this movie and think it just may be Luca's best work and my favorite film of 2024. I still feel early, as this hasn't had a wide release, and I'm eager to see what most people think of it. Though I imagine this one will be difficult for most audiences to grapple with and will certainly not be as popular as Guadagnino's Challengers from earlier this year. So let's start with perhaps the most important quote in the film. I'm not queer, I'm disembodied. This is a line repeated multiple times, first by Lee in a dream sequence early on. Knowing a little bit about the original author, William S. Burroughs' life, this moment seems to be about him and his wife, who is once again referenced in the ending with the William Tell trick. William Tell, you know what the William Tell trick is?
Yeah, now I do.
Okay, now you do. So just so you're caught up with that. She appears literally disembodied, a legless torso floating naked with a needle in her arm. This is telling about Lee's addiction. But also gives us an insight into his mind and acts as a parallel to the much younger Allerton, who is in denial of his own sexuality. This being a key point, since much later Allerton repeats this exact quote back to Lee. I'm not queer, I'm disembodied. Disembodied is depicted many ways throughout Queer. From the literal disembodiment of the woman's torso to Lee fading in and out of reality. There was this one scene early on where Jason Schwartzman walks in. Lee's already sitting down, and then it cuts to the TV with white static, and then he himself fades out of it. That's one of the examples. In several scenes, he disappears entirely. Multiple times, his arm fades into Allerton as Luca beautifully depicts Lee's desire to caress Allerton's face or lean into him. Mm-hmm. In the specific scene where Lee is shown faded leaning into Allerton, much can be unpacked. This is the scene in the movie theater. The movie is Orpheus from 1950 by John Cocteau. The specific scene shows Orpheus entering a mirror, with the translated lines being something like, "Perhaps you're afraid. But this mirror is a mirror, and in it, I see an unhappy man. You don't have to understand. You just have to believe," as Orpheus walks through. I think to some degree, Lee sees himself in Allerton, and that's part of what draws him to the younger man. This mirror is a mirror. I'd say they bear some resemblance for sure, though Lee is much older and an unhappy man in his loneliness. However, Lee is more certain of his sexuality in that he's queer and he strongly desires Allerton. Allerton, on the other hand, is much younger, but still struggles with his identity. Lee tries to draw him in, never pressuring him to admit that he himself is queer, nor to explain himself as he constantly goes out with a woman. Almost as if Allerton doesn't have to understand his own sexuality entirely. He's certainly into Lee, but he never admits to being queer. Mm-hmm. Perhaps if he accepts his queerness and stays with Lee, the two could be happy together. There is a moment as Lee and Allerton eat dinner together that is one of the best dialogues I've seen in a while, which is taken nearly line for line from the book, but shortened a bit. This was the scene here. Well, you remember that scene where you know which one he's talking about in the dinner, and it's like, basically like the scene boils down to him explaining how he first found out, how he feels about it, and how he's come to terms with like how he needs to live his life, going forward. Basically, Bobo, we called her, who taught me that I had a duty to live and to bear in my burden proudly for all to see, to conquer prejudice and ignorance and hate with knowledge and sincerity and love. What I mean is, Allerton, we are all parts of a tremendous whole. No use fighting it. And I gotta say, I can't be the only one that thought that when I heard Daniel Craig say whole, I immediately was brought back to Knives Out. I can't be the only one that felt that way when I heard him say whole. Donut hole. Lee is bearing his soul and being vulnerable to Allerton, admitting his own struggles upon discovering he was gay, trying to encourage Allerton that there's no use fighting against his own identity. Despite the two going back to Lee's apartment and ultimately having sex, Allerton continues to sway between giving in and resisting. So I'm going to pause here. So you had something really interesting to tell me immediately walking out of the theater about an observation you made over one of our friends while watching the movie. About why somebody was putting his head down at certain moments in the movie?
Oh. Yes. That was
and
funny.
How it felt like? Because you were seriously asking me, why was he putting his head down at all the moments that they were
making out?
And the answer that I got was actually two answers. One is he considers those moments cringe. And that I totally get. Like he's very allergic to cringe. He even had he had this when Smile 2 was happening at some of its cringe moments, so that I understand. But evidently he also said he was taking power naps in between. And he picked those moments because he got it.
But to be fair, he was also putting his head down in other moments. So it wasn't just those.
Yes. If you want to be fair about it.
That was funny. Like I said, I feel like I need to watch this movie again after having all this information. But, I mean, the only thing I could say right now is just it looked again, beautiful. The colors, the sets,
Oh man,
like everything. And I think like in Nosferatu, where it had like these lines of dialogue, how I said earlier, I think both of them had a lot of dialogue that was very like, oh, okay. And I think like the one that impacted me the most was, first of all, before I get to that, the younger guy's introduction, I think, is the best introduction to a character in a movie. I literally turned to David and I was like, this is amazing. I love this so much.
And then apparently Cobain was a really big fan of William S. Burroughs.
Oh.
Which is why Luca included the music in his soundtrack.
Nice.
That's why we had the 3 Nirvana songs
we did.
in here.
But
Come As You Are, especially, that it could not have been more perfect. That sequence might be... There's a lot of contenders for like best scene in the movie. That might be one of the best scenes of the year.
That's my favorite scene. And the other one was after they did the whole what's that thing? The thing that they go like, ayahuasca thing. I was gonna say Sacagawea. I just had to say that. Anyways, the line that apparently, what's the queen says of, you should have seen yourself?
You mean Princess Margaret?
Yes.
She was never queen.
Oh, that's right.
And she will remind you herself if she was here. I was never allowed to be queen.
When she goes, you should have seen yourself? Oh. I
mean, to touch on that, this is what this review that I was reading here. This comes to a head in the 3rd chapter as Lee and Allerton find themselves in the South American jungle, drinking ayahuasca and literally fusing into one. Their bodies morphing into each other, talking without speaking. As Lee says to Allerton earlier, yet the latter interrupts the scene with, "I'm not queer, I'm disembodied." In this case, the two are on ayahuasca with minds taken out of their bodies, hearts vomited on the ground, meshing into each other. It's a beautifully choreographed scene that takes on some body horror, yet goes beyond the two having sexual chemistry. Even the woman making the ayahuasca, Dr. Cotter, remarks on how special their experience with this is. Despite this, Allerton refuses to dwell on it and immediately leaves. And that's the last we see of him. Door's already open. Can't close it now, she says. All you can do is look away. But why would you? We've just witnessed perhaps the most beautiful and most personal part of the movie where these two are becoming one. Yet Allerton refuses it. What's even more sad is that Allerton is rarely shown as vulnerable, unlike Lee. But after this moment, as Allerton goes to sleep, we see a single tear fall down his cheek. There's a connection that has been formed that's so deep it literally never leaves Lee, but Allerton chooses to look away. Even though it's so personal, he sheds a tear. And on the way out of the jungle, as soon as Lee turns, Allerton disappears from his sight forever.
I mean, that's, that's such like a deep, like, human experience to... And not a lot of people are lucky to experience that. But like the heartbreak of, somebody like you being with somebody and connecting so deeply and just like them like doing whatever and like ruining that. Like it's, I don't know. It's so tragic to me. And yeah.
It really is sad. I think a lot of people are rightfully praising the final scene in the film where he like dies alone in bed, and it's very depressing. But I think honestly, like one of the ones that's kind of been overlooked where I was like, it was like really like, wow, was like the 2 years later sequence where he comes back to Mexico City and he's back in the bar with his friend. And then it's toward the end of the scene, and the camera is just on him, and he's just kind of like, you can tell, not only is he not over it, like he's barely trying to keep it together. Like he's not even saying anything. He's just like trying to, like, you see his face just trying to keep from breaking because they're talking about him and that he's not in his life anymore.
Yeah. It's so sad.
It really is. And then of course, there was a whole bunch of like stuff that happened at the end too. The last couple, I guess, visions, if you want to call them. Daniel Craig portrays this loneliness beautifully. This is the review I'm reading. And the extremely trippy dream sequence following the South America trip leads me to wonder if the ayahuasca ever wore off. Lee, right? It's an interesting way of looking at that too. Lee shoots Allerton. This is the vision he sees, smiling at first before quickly regretting what he did and kissing Allerton's dead body. Of course, this parallels the real-life Burroughs shooting his wife in a similar fashion with a William Tell act. But it also points to Lee's inability to move on from Allerton. No matter what he tries, he can't get rid of his desire for Allerton. And there is a lot to unpack in this dream sequence too. The Ouroboros, that's the snake, representing the cycle of life and death, repeating with a single tear falling down the snake as it bites itself, reminiscent of Allerton's single tear following the ayahuasca trip. Although others, I would say, have interpreted that Ouroboros, the snake that eats itself, as a representation of Allerton, as what he does to himself and the pain that he feels. Interestingly, I read an interview where the Ouroboros represents Lee trapped in a cycle, as shown early in the film, with him constantly searching for human connection in the form of whatever twink he can get to sleep with him. And the centipede represents Allerton moving forward as Allerton moves on quickly from Lee. Maybe. Yeah. Finally, as the set shifts, we end up back in the motel room Lee met with Omar Apollo's character at the start of the movie. Of course, now Lee is significantly older. Wonderful makeup there, by the way. This dream sequence seems to mix different time between past, present, and future, all going back to the Ouroboros, meaning that Lee is doomed to repeat a cycle even in his old age, as he ends up in the same room we saw at the beginning of the movie, desiring Allerton. The ending is one of the saddest things I've seen in a film this year, as Lee lays down, imagining Allerton's legs on his. That one moment on their South American trip where Allerton's intimate act of cuddling his legs as Lee shivered never left him. He dies quietly, but his mind is still shown with flashing lights, maybe signaling that even though he was alone, he still had some hope, something to cling to. By the way, I want to pause from this because that was mostly the end, but I one of the things that you catch on to is the movie begins and ends with these flashing lights, right? And I think some people interpret it like that as like Lee's mind being set free into whatever existence happens after people die. And it, as I was reading this, I was reminded of a quote I shared with all of you yesterday by David Lynch, who just recently left us. Him saying, "I believe life is a continuum, and no one really dies. They just drop their physical body, and we'll all meet again, like the song says. It's sad, but it's not devastating if you think like that. We're all going to be fine at the end of the story." Yeah, exactly. He ends by saying, back to this, "I think this movie is possibly Guadagnino's best, which is insane to say with how much I enjoyed Challengers and how much of an impact Call Me By Your Name had on me." Queer is a lot to unpack. It's full of loneliness. It's full of pining and one-sidedness. It's full of denial, but it's also full of love. Lee's love for Allerton and his desire to know him so intimately they can talk without speaking is both tragic and beautiful. To be lonely is to be human. On top of that, struggling with your own identity can be extremely isolating. This is a film that I still think I could watch every day for the rest of the year, and regardless, will still be thinking about it for a long time. There's so much to unpack in this beautiful film, and I will probably continue to overanalyze this as it will stay in my mind for a long time. He ends with the quote that you were saying. Well, not the one exactly, but doors already open, can't close it now. All you can do is look away. But why would you? I gotta tell you, this is a film that has aged extremely well. Since even when we first saw it with you, I had already seen it once before. If you care to watch it again, it's already on our Vudu. It's already there to go, and I have already watched it again. And it's just, I was watching it on my TV, and I was like, wow, this is such a good movie to look at. It's such a good looking movie, and it could just be, the whiplash we get from watching Wicked before and then watching this, but it's just like you're reminded this is what movies are supposed to look like, It's such a visually stunning film. The actors are incredible. Luca is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors ever, and he's going to give us a new movie this year too. So like he's really working a lot. And I am curious to get David more into his other movies. I think he'll respond more to Challengers and Call Me By Your Name. He just has to watch them. But like, it's pretty insane that this was his first movie to watch of his, of all the ones to watch. Because this is one of the most demanding films I think I've ever seen. Like, it demands a lot out of you, and it refuses to really help you along the way.
Yeah.
In a lot of it, You kind of have to put in some work to kind of like unlock the movie. And I get that a lot of people don't want to do that. I just wish a few more would want to entertain and venture out and look for these wonderful conversations happening. I think Letterboxd, to me, aside from TikTok, Letterboxd is also that space where I can get a lot of these takes from people that you otherwise wouldn't. When you watch Conclave, there is a particular review that was written by Houston Colley, who that I think like unlocked a piece of the movie for me that I was like, oh, this is even better than I thought it was. So yeah. Anything? I mean, look, the soundtrack was incredible for this movie. Not just the Nirvana songs, but literally there was like 2 Prince songs in here too. That this, like, more than ever, there needs to exist a category for best soundtrack of like best composed songs that have already been established, not like brand new songs.
Yeah.
But then again, if they had that award, they probably would give it to Wicked anyway, right?
Well, maybe Dune can win something.
Nah, probably not. I mean, I gotta tell you, like, it really does feel like the Academy and all the people in the industry were like, well, we gave Dune Part 1 a lot of Oscars, so I guess we took care of that.
That's so annoying.
Yeah, it is very annoying. Alexis, before we leave today, was there anything else you wanted to bring up or discuss? I think I tried to go and cover as much as we possibly could. I'm not going to say it out loud into the universe because when I do this, it kind of ends up biting me in the ass. But let's just say we might see something soon, and we might talk about it. We'll see. But we're looking forward to whatever that may be. But yeah, there are some good movies out there if you go and look for them. But it's just like, again, right now it's a particularly tough time to do that with all of what's going on literally in the world. I do want to thank you for coming on here because I really have enjoyed this conversation. I think whenever we have you on the show, you definitely are, I don't know, you just make it feel more personable and less antagonistic. Peter likes to like just waste too much time with getting under my skin, and then it just kind of derails a lot of the conversation. And David's great and all, but sometimes I do get the feeling he would prefer not to speak. That's what I sense anyway. So it's nice to have you here, to just also, and it helps to not have the show be a complete sausage fest as well, So that's an added benefit too. So we greatly appreciate your perspective and all the time and effort that you put onto this show. And so yeah, thank you for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy 2025. Also,
I know, the year of 30.
Oh no. That's so sad. It's fine. We're fine. It's okay. I still have a few months under my belt. I gotta enjoy these last few months in my 20s.
Yeah. I'm first to go over the line, so.
Well, isn't it Kyle first?
Who's Kyle? Oh yeah, Kyle. That's right. Oh, did you get the memo, by the way, of what we're doing for episode 500? I don't know if anyone told you.
No.
I need to fire the press secretary then. Whoever's in charge of sending out the emails. Episode 500, we're gonna do a big episode. I don't know how it's gonna work like with you because you seem to be allergic to these kind of shows. But this was Peter's proposition. Damn it, I can't talk anymore. We need to sign off pretty soon because this is it. Peeper. Oh my god, this is what he came up with. Because we have not done a top 10 of 2023, we're gonna do a double whammy, 500th show, where we're gonna do our top 10 movies of 2023 and our top 10 movies of 2024.
Oh my god. Okay.
And it was funny because I thought he meant something else when he first suggested the idea. I thought he was saying we're going to do one list of 10 movies, but the 2 years put into one. That's what I thought he was saying. And it was funny because, like, I did it already. It's already there.
You said I'm done.
Yeah, I of course I'm done. So it's going to be 10 movies, the favorite 10 from 2023, and the favorite 10 from 2024.
Okay.
You can choose to come up with one, or you honestly just do whatever the hell you want, and then just be on the show, because we definitely need you to be on the show. Like, make a list, don't make a list. You can just say, these are some of my favorites. If you want, you can even just make a list of the 2 years combined. Like, just do whatever the hell you want. Just as long as you're there. We need to make a date, because it's going to be a long recording.
Yes. Okay. I'll be ready.
We need to... By the way, this was episode 498.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah.
I think we have maybe 2 to 3 weeks to get ready.
Should be.
I'm ready. I already have my list ready to go.
I'm going to be in the middle of moving, so...
I know. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. We all wish you the best. By the way, have you two not signed up for AMC Stubs?
No.
We need to have a discussion about that off screen. Anyway, thank all of you for watching and listening. This is a wonderful conversation. Please stay tuned for whoever the hell knows what we'll do next. Stay under a red spotlight, guys. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.